Welcome back to the SMITE Pro League Road to Worlds playoffs. We have already found out our first 3 teams going to the SWC for qualification, and now we are down to just one more set to determine who our 4th and final team will be. I'm J-Mac. I got Inbound joining me here on the desk, or I guess technically joining you because you've already been holding
you joined me.
You've been holding down the fort pretty nicely over here on the desk over the course of your first set, or of course of the first set of today. We still have one more to go. Oni Warriors and Highland Ravens will be our final set for today's matchups. Tomorrow will be all seeding matchups to determine who's going to be 1st and 2nd, who's going to be 3rd and 4th. But we still got to figure out who that 4th team for those seedings is going to be, as I said, with this matchup between the Warriors and the Ravens. Winner goes to Worlds. Loser, well, not done just yet, but we won't see them for some time. It'll be that last chance qualifier in that week before the SWC in January to determine if and who our final 4 teams will be that they get to kind of pick from here. So big matchup on the line for both these two squads. A struggling Ravens, I think, to say the very least, kind of to start our week out. Didn't feel like that the Ravens really had a full grasp on the meta. Oni Warriors, their set, able to go the full distance in 5 up against the Leviathans, but fell just a bit short at the end.
Yeah, I think that's a good highlight. I think Ravens have had much better days. I think recently they've looked like a worse team than expected. I think their grasp of the meta looked worse than other teams at the very least. I think you compare it to the Warriors side of things. The Warriors, I mean, it's truthfully they had the harder side going through the Levi's also. It's just a much higher like top 3. I think they had to play against one of the top 3. But the Warriors contested the Levi's. Ravens lost to the Dragons 3-1 on Thursday. So it's just like a kind of a tale of 2 coins right now. Warriors are coming from like a higher seed, Ravens coming from the lower seed. But when both of these teams have coming off losses, there's not like a lot of momentum on your sides. And there's a lot less for the Ravens to lose, so they can play a lot more loose, I think. So there's always stuff like that to look for.
Yeah, I think it's all about that reset. You know, how are you able to kind of bounce back after a loss? You know, Oni Warriors able to get a full 5 games to practice in on what they feel is their kind of meta. Ravens got to see what theirs was compared to maybe what some of the other teams are doing, and have had a little bit of time to kind of be able to sit down and watch what the rest of the teams were doing. And one of the players and one of the people in general who's been able to help sit back and kind of formulate things has been the coach for this team. We haven't had a chance to talk to Sam Marbach in a while, so who better to talk to for our pregame interview than the coach himself?
That's right. We've got Sam Marbach standing by, looking fantastic in the Raven costume. That's really where the first question comes from. Do you feel like the costume really hypes up the booth, gives the players some more energy?
I would say so. I mean, I have wings. You know, we're fully able to really just get after it and have fun while we're doing it.
No, I think it brings a lot of great energy into the booth. And I think that's sort of where I want to start off, right? Obviously not the result that you guys were looking for coming in on Thursday. How is the team feeling after that loss? And I think how have you guys looked to the Oni Warriors to try and get ready for this specific matchup?
The boys are still feeling good. We're looking forward to being able to prove ourselves. Obviously, the end goal is make it to Worlds, but I mean, I don't know. In a best of 5, it can go. Anything can happen, and they're a really good team. So we're looking forward to hopefully being able to prove ourselves. But if not, making the January run.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely spirits high, and that's good going in, right? You're not knocked out of contention totally here, obviously, but would love to win it here today. Oni Warriors, they're coming off the loss yesterday up against the Leviathans. Did you guys take a look at that set? Think you were able to take away anything specifically feeling about the meta here going into this matchup?
Yeah, I think we saw a lot. I mean, I don't want to give away too much, but I think we saw a lot of things we can play around.
Well, that's Sam Marbach for the Ravens. Good luck in your set today, and we'll throw it back to the desk.
I can't even tell if he's a true Raven, though. We didn't get his best call or anything like that to know if he truly has the Raven spirit in him.
Well, he started flapping, and I think Ravens are the only bird that can fly, I think.
Are they the only one?
I think.
What about penguins? Can they fly?
I don't think.
Flamingos?
I don't think.
It must just be the Ravens. It's the only 3 birds that I can think of. Before the Ravens team trying to find themselves a big bounce back after their loss earlier this week, see if they can now maybe kind of either reimagine the meta that they were going through, or seeing if they can adapt to what everybody else has been playing and see if maybe they have some kind of counter strategies up against it. We've been seeing a lot of Maman this weekend, but outside of the first initial day of play, we haven't really been seeing the explosive performance out of that god. I think for me, from what I've noticed from both these teams, it comes down a lot to their junglers. While Scream on the Ama didn't look awful, when Scream's on a carry god and gets to be the run-it-down startup for the team, this team looks almost night and day difference.
Yeah, I think I agree with you a lot. I think this Ama jungle is something that I've not been a fan of unless your name is... Actually, I've just not been a fan of it in general. There's a couple players that had some good games on it, but I think Ama makes a lot more sense in the solo lane, or just not played too much right now. And then you look at the other side, you look at when Scream is playing these hard carry jungles, it seems like the Ravens have an idea of what they want to do, and I think that makes the most sense for this team. I also really did like this Chalk solo. I think this is not a spot I would look for on this Ravens team. I think a lot of it comes down to their dual lane picks, support mostly. I think Hurry was playing a lot of picks that didn't make a ton of sense in a lot of the games, and I also think Zapman wasn't really playing as... He played Anhur in one of the games against a Hachiman, and he was getting bullied under tower by Coast. That cannot happen. If we're picking Anhur, we need to play aggressively on that side. And then, if you really think about it, if you're playing that Anhur and you're not playing to win lane, you're not making full use of that character. And you compare it to the other side, the Warriors. I mean, players across the board that have all done it before. They all have dominated their own role. Solo at one point on this eShell also yesterday, dominating it. And I think across the board, this Warriors team has really high highs, but then they also have like this consistency problem where some games they don't really play up to their potential, I think.
Yeah, I think kind of maybe speaking to that, it's a bit of playing on hard mode maybe as far as some of Hurriwind's picks have gone towards the support role, and then really talk about the peaks and the valleys for the teams that have kind of been a little bit higher maybe on the side of the Ravens, but also a bit lower compared to that of what the Oni Warriors have had. And the Oni Warriors against them, I think this is a similar conversation where we talk about the junglers. And this is not to sound mean or anything, but yesterday's set looked like one of Panitom's worst of the year. And that's saying something considering how good of a year he's had at the start of it. Even throughout this phase, Panitom has always looked like one of those dominant factors. But yesterday on the Maman, did not really see anything to really write home about it. It felt like he just couldn't find his groove on the god. The build wasn't necessarily working out for him. It felt like in the two games where even with one loss and one win, the win didn't feel like it was out of Panitom's pocket.
Yeah, and you compare it to what he was doing in that set to what Adapting was doing in that set. Adapting was making plays early, mid, late game, every single game, and I think that was a big discrepancy between these players, because I would agree. I think Panitom has been one of the best players all year, but yesterday he really got exploited, and I think part of it comes down to that Maman performance. But, I mean, this is a highlight play for me yesterday. Even though they did lose the set 3-2, I think Pegon played great. I think actually a lot of mid laners so far in this playoffs have played very, very well, but Pegon has really stood out to me as a player that was putting his team on his back in some games, and then it was like a sole carry in a game that they needed to carry. So Pegon is somebody I'm going to keep my eye on today.
Yeah, I think this Tiamat pick is one to definitely keep your eyes on over anything. Pegon looked really good on the pick the couple of games that he played it. The eShell, the solo lane that you talked a little bit about earlier, I love what you're seeing from SOT on that pick. A god that when she came out, we saw one or two games. Those didn't net and win, so they said, okay, well, maybe we just kind of pocket the eShell for a little while, put it on the shelf, maybe jump back another time. Got a couple of buffs in the previous patch, and everybody's saying, okay, maybe eShell is back. Maybe we see what she can do. Didn't see a whole lot of success immediately. Now we get SoloOrTroll bringing that one out, having dominant performances, and I believe really all three of the games that he played looked fantastic on the pick. So now opens up another god and another mage in that soul lane for him to kind of go back towards.
And it's something that's not probably going to get banned either, because it's not in that same tier as the Raijin, the Puch, even the MLF. So, and Poseidon, I guess, too. Yeah. So there's like this level of mage solos, and if you have like that pocket pick one, I think it's the same thing with Nika, where if those top tier mage solos are banned, you've got a couple niche picks down below that you can still pull out and maybe not play as well as those other mage solos, but well enough that it doesn't feel as bad. And I think when we hop into P's and B's with Warriors taking that first pick, I think that is something that I want to pay attention to, those mage and solo lanes, because we compare it to the first game today. First game today was, we are focusing out Yamoja and Athena, and they are not getting played all day. That might change for this, and I think mage solos is where the focus is going to be.
Yeah, we'll be curious to see where the priority is for these two teams. That's not the immediate one that I would be thinking.
Yeah, me
of the
neither.
Naja. I mean, Scream is a really good Naja player. We've seen what Scream can do on this pick. We've seen what a lot of other junglers in the league can do, but first ban from the Oni Warriors, a lot of respect to the jungler of the Highland Ravens, but this is also a lot of what I expect to see banned on the Ravens side. Not letting this Khepri through, you don't want to play it for themselves, but you don't want to give it to Genetics. I mean, this has been a go-to pick for him since his time up in the SPL, even going all the way back to last year, was dominant on this pick, looked really good on it during his first and second phase on it, so not surprised to see the Khepri banned away. Ullr kind of joining that ranks is maybe a little bit questionable, We don't really see a whole lot of Hunter solo unless it is SOT playing it. Pegon's also shown he's good on the God. Netrioid can play it as well. So maybe it's just a ban because of how flexible that pick is for the role, for the team in general.
Yeah, I think that's what it was, because we saw the Levi's do these exact same bans yesterday, and it seemed to work out pretty well for them, and that's kind of what the Ravens are kind of following suit with. And the Warriors on the opposite side go with the Emoja Poseidon ban. Leaves open Chernobog, and I think he's kind of fallen down a little bit, but not enough to not be let through. Chernobog banned. That leaves open Athena, which is something we did not see last set. Formerly available here for the Warriors, something that they happily prioritized yesterday. And it's open, it's available, it's locked in for the Warriors. That is their first pick.
I think the big thing about this Athena is that it also still holds a bit of flex with this team. We saw Genetics take it yesterday when he got it, but when we go into the phase leading up into here, we saw Panitom take this pick in the jungle. Builds immediate 40% CDR, and it was just every single team fight starts and ends with a dash taunt. So having that threat of the Athena on the team already, the threat of that global, something to be answered back. Poseidon and Chernobog were those final two bans between the two teams, but almost falling right into expectations, Raijin drafted for the Highland Ravens, and the Maman Brigitte alongside it, so some options now for Screammmmm on this team if he decides to go back to the mage.
And with Maman Raijin locked in, that leaves open potential for an MLF and solo lane or an Puch also available. Bunch of junglers still available outside of that Naja also. Maybe you want to lock in your jungle, but when you look at both of these teams, a lot of times they try to hold their jungles for that second pick phase. They like to have counter pick potential there. Usually you have your supports, your mids, your solos locked in these top threes, with sometimes your Hunter having the pick also. And that is something that we can also a little highlight is when Chernobog's gone, it leaves two Hunters really. I mean, we did see Rama earlier today, but it leaves open Anhur and it leaves open Hachiman. And the Warriors lock in that Puch. Little flex potential there also, but it does lean a little bit more to solo.
Let's see what the Warriors continue to draft around there. I kind of want to go back to the Maman. We saw Scream play it, and we've seen a couple of other junglers take it. Panitom's played it a little bit, Captain Twig played in his set, but we've also seen a ton of mid play from her. Do you think that this is a god that can fit well for Venenu in that mid role? Is this one that you think fits better for Scream on this team?
You know, I was a lot more comfortable with Maman in the jungle leading up until this tournament, and then I've seen a lot of jungles play the Maman, and it looks like an uncomfortable pick when it comes to mid and late game, and then you see the mid laners play it, and a lot of them just seem more comfortable on it, and it doesn't make a ton of sense with how hard the laning phase should be, but a lot of the times the Maman is just able to lane easily and get to that late game portion, and then they usually just opt for that alternate timeline for an extra threat in that late game. So yeah, I think Venenu could play it, but I think it's just going to be defaulted to Scream a little bit. And with the Warriors on their last pick, get that Anhur locked in. So overall, some flex potential. Anhur is pretty firmly set into that ADC role. Puch, maybe mid, most likely solo. Athena, maybe jungle, most likely support. On the Raven side of things, a little bit more flex potential, I think. I think we've seen Raijin play mid almost as much as solo. We've seen Maman in jungle and mid evenly, I would say, maybe slightly more towards the mid lane, but nothing too surprising so far. The Ravens having this one more pick before we get to the next ban phase. Maybe they want to lock in that Hachiman or get a jungle somewhere else. Thoth, actually.
So triple mage right at the top for the Highland Ravens, which now opens up the question of where do they go for their support? Because typically when we're seeing the double mage, or I guess I should say the triple mage comps, usually it's one support and then either your mid or jungle and solo. But now potential for the Highland Ravens to have 4 magical if they do put either a guardian or a mage over in that support role. Where do you think the Ravens go with their next pick?
This draft stinks. I do not like this top 3. You're putting your dual lane as double physical, or if not, at best, you're drafting 1 hunter with 4 magical gods. You're not able to exploit the true strength of all these characters. That poke in solo lane with this mage is not going to be as strong because they're just going to opt for some heart word in support or something along the lines of that. I really think if you just don't go for this Thoth here, and you keep flexing that Maman, you pick your hunter or you pick your support, I think it makes way more sense. I am not a fan of this top 3. But enough about a little bit of rambling of my opinion of this. Thor ban, Hachiman ban. I just do not like this top 3 so far by the Ravens.
I really wish the camera would have seen you giving your kind of little stinky impression that you were throwing over this way. But Highland Ravens You have to figure out, are they going to run the double physical duo as you call for, or we see that 4 magical? And I think my next question then comes to you is there maybe more value? You know, whenever we typically see games of Smite, you oftentimes will split your damage types into a 3 and 2 split, either 3 Fizz or 3 Magic, and then 2 Fizz, 2 Magic, depending on which one you go. Is there value in having something like a 4 magical comp against the team compared to having something like a 4 physical? Would it be inherently better in that regard, or do you think that having this many magicals, it doesn't matter how many more you have there, there's ways to build around it?
I think 4 physicals. Are you asking is 4 physicals or 4 magicals better?
Is there value in having, you know, if you are going to go 4 of 1, is it more valuable to have it as 4 magical than the physical?
I think 4 physical. I think actually makes a lot more sense. It works a lot better on objectives. It allows for your crits to be hitting a lot harder. I think it's harder for your magical gods to be 4 magicals and to be as strong because there's no really big, like, explosive damage burst like a Deathbringer. I think Rod adds a little bit of damage, but it's not like an exorbitant amount like Deathbringer is, so I always think it feels better. And it feels like there's a lot more pen options in a lot of the stronger warriors than there is on the magical side of things, because you look at the 3 mages, Raijin has no shred, Maman no shred, Thoth no shred. I think the one thing that maybe makes me say that I don't hate their comp as much is something like an Atlas that has true protection shred. But before we get to that, before we get to the last pick by the Ravens, Ares set locked in for the Warriors, and I think you're right. We're getting an Athena jungle.
Wow. Ares, and I think while the Ares is definitely the spicy one else to talk about, I think going back to the set, because it's been a while since we've seen the Assassins kind of really dominate, especially towards mid-roll. Don't necessarily think that well, actually, thinking about it,
Oh no, what are we thinking?
Where do we see this set? Is this going to be a set mid for Pegon then?
Yeah, I think
set mid for Pegon? Okay. And in that instance, how do you kind of feel about the set right now? Because we haven't really seen very many Assassins mid as of recent, with introduction of Breastplate and the glyph that it gotten kind of pushed the Assassins out of the mid lane. That Breastplate glyph has been toned back just a little bit. Do you think that that's enough to still find value in these Assassin mids?
I think Set is still in a great spot. I think he farms a little bit worse in that early and mid game to the nerfs to his 1 and his 2. But, I mean, late game, you are still very hard to kill with this Sigil build with your 3's mitigations. You're sitting at about 30% mitigation when you're diving the enemy backline, and you have consistent damage. You've got good burst. You've got survivability. You've got movement speed. And I think when you look at it in a lot of these 1v1 matchups in mid, Set is very rarely losing these 1v1 matchups. Yes, he might not be able to win them, but he's not losing them. And then you compare it to something like a lot of these other Assassins. I think they've fallen out pretty comfortably. I think Pele is a lot weaker, Kama's a lot weaker, because they relied on Soul Eater. Set doesn't rely on Soul Eater. Set's going trans, and he's just going full power with that Sigil. I think this Warriors comp makes a lot of sense. The last pick, Nox by the Ravens. I'm really not liking the Ravens draft.
It's an immense amount of magical with no true tank to this team. I mean, yes, you can build the hybrid mage solo. Yes, you can build your full tank mage. Doesn't quite feel the same as having a guardian or maybe a warrior in that spot there. So maybe going to be a bit difficult for the Highland Ravens to find their damage. Really going to be banking, at least on Zapman more than anybody, to really get that damage out there. And on the Cernunnos, I think I want to kind of go back to this as a duo lane. Nox we've seen a little bit this weekend, but nobody's been playing the Cernunnos. So what are your thoughts on the god right now?
I think Cern's in a pretty solid spot. I think especially with these like full backline comps, because a lot of the times it's going to be a mage solo, so you're going to have really strong backline. And if you're playing around objectives, Cern is one of the best objective hunters in the game. His laning phase is strong. It's not OP, it's not Izanami on her strong, but it is a strong laning phase. So you can play through this duo. Once you go to the late game, you have somebody to play around these objectives. My only gripe with the Ravens comp is that 4 magical. That's just really making me not love the comp.
It's going to be maybe a bit difficult, maybe a bit interesting to see how they kind of dance around this 4 magical style of composition. I also want to ask you, before we jump into game, do you think there's value in the set build maybe going away from the Sigil and going towards some of the newly buffed items, maybe that Warriors Axe or that Bluestone that got recently buffed as well?
I think maybe potential for it, but I think Sigil just makes so much sense on set and allows that level 20 spike to just be through the roof compared to that Axe or the Bluestone, because Axe Bluestone, you farm better, you're fighting a little bit better early game, but that level 20 finishing that starter is insane with Sigil, and then I think it just makes the entire build just round out really well. So I prefer the Sigil, but maybe he's tested a little bit with Axe and he's found something with it.
Well, it's one final best of 5 for these two teams to see which is going to be the 4th and final one to go to the SWC, but it all starts out here in game number 1 with the Warriors and the Ravens. We'll throw it to our casters.
Thank you so much, J-Mac and Inbound. You've got Frog, Mifflin, and Doug to take you through this one. And the Oni Warriors, Highland Ravens, both looking to secure that 4th and final spot, at least the final spot that we're giving away this weekend, to the SWC. Both these teams coming off a loss a little bit earlier on in the weekend. Oni Warriors fell down to the Leviathans. Highland Ravens falling down to the Jade Dragons to start us off on Thursday. So looking to build momentum here in this first game. And that poll, I think, certainly heavily favored towards the Oni Warriors, and that makes sense. They were in the same division. The Oni Warriors, they topped out that division. Highland Ravens, they've lost in both of the matchups throughout the regular season.
Yeah, and the most recent look at the Ravens kind of indicated to me that they were struggling with the meta a bit. I am liking the adaptations in individual god picks. I'm liking, you know, Maman, Brigitte in the jungle, Scream off facilitators, now playing a hyper carry. But I do echo the sentiment of Bobby on the desk. This Quadra magical composition going to really struggle once a little bit of defense starts to stack up. We're not going to have to see Prophetic Cloak. You might even be willing to forego things like Thebes. Doubt that, though. Genetics generally wants to pick up that aura defense, especially because of the synergy with Ares passive. But Heart Ward Amulet certainly on the table, just going in almost entirely towards defense in the magical regard. Because for the most part, is Zapman going to be doing enough to justify picking up 2 defense items? I think really you only just need the one.
Especially on this Cernunnos. Your J-Mac talked about it a little bit. Hold that, though. Scream. Putting some pressure onto Pegon here in the mid lane. A little bit of a different matchup than we've seen in a while in this mid lane. We do have 2 mages, but they're both on the same side, the Ravens, having those double magical there. Meanwhile, a Guardian and an Assassin make up that mid 2v2 for the Oni Warriors. And that sort of begs the question when they prioritize this Athena, something we've seen so heavily prioritized this tournament throughout our Road to Worlds phase, and then they don't put it in support where it's seen success. They choose to give it to Panitom in the jungle.
I mean, we've seen plenty of Athena jungle throughout the year and throughout the years. So what does it do? Heavy bursts, great global presence, really solid ganks. Anytime you've got taunt, it's just great initiation, even if it is going to be on a squishier target this time around. But I trust Panitom to be able to pilot this one relatively well. But keep your eyes on that 3-4 item power spike. Until then, Athena generally struggles a bit in actually doing kill pressure damage. Once you have Polynomicon, a little bit of penetration, things start to shore up. But something people don't talk about enough on Athena is that she's actually got pretty decent jungle clear. Having a cleave in the auto attack chain as well as just cleave from the passive makes it very fast to work through the jungle.
Dash in from Panitom. Hurriwind caught in the slow, and they're looking for the last bit of damage. They will not find it through the dashes, and the Highland Ravens stay safe on that first attempted gank.
Yeah, Panitom coming up a bit empty there, but even in just putting out a bit of pressure, has stripped away the meditation from Hurriwind, taking away some of that sustain, and now any damage that Netrioid's able to do in lane should stick a little bit more easily, which is important. Anhur wants to take that fight early on. Massive boxing potential. I wonder, do you just keep the pressure in duo if you're the Oni Warriors? Have Genetics just hover here like all the way until level 10? Make sure that Hurriwind isn't allowed to rotate out. That could benefit them. But take into account maybe some of that jungle presence. You'd really like to see the Oni Warriors try and focus out Scream too. Maman Brigitte, very strong. No one's saying she isn't. Massive win rate so far. Only been available this weekend, upwards of 70%, but doesn't exactly have a strong early.
SoloOrTroll, no beads, and getting taunted back in the stun, and the dash secures it. Haddix first on the board with the kill, and the Highland Ravens grab that pressure over in solo.
Clean stuff. SOT on the Opwash just has so little mobility. Easy for Haddix and Scream to jump on him. That said, now that Panitom's got his global presence, would be able to make that a little bit easier for SOT to survive. And once you get to that second slot on these mage solos, that's generally when junglers stop showing up. Pythag's piece helps out a lot, then defense in second. Kind of makes it a little bit less appetizing to hang out on that side of the map. SOT, though, might not be going towards true dedicated defense in second slot. Maybe wants to shift things up. Unfamiliar with how Soul Inners will think about this 4 Magic draft.
Scream Looking for some more pressure and taunted out by Panitom, but not sure if this will be a full engagement before the ultimate comes through. Pegon knocked down to 10% right there. Will not secure the kill, though. It's certainly the Ravens looking to try and force some of this pressure early on. A lot driven by Scream on this Maman, and you have to imagine with this quad magical composition, you do want to try and get involved early before some of these granted magical defense items come online.
You might, but it's also awkward because mages tend to scale into late. That's generally what they do, need that power stack up from their items. So it's this catch-20 of, we want to play early before the Oni Warriors can get their defense, but we're not exactly playing the earliest game gods. Thoth, not exactly the fastest. Maman Brigitte needs some items. Hurry's going to not be tanky until he's 2 or 3 items into his build, so it's an interesting position for the Highland Ravens. I wonder if the Oni Warriors might just decide to slow things down. We've seen a very heavy, objective-focused gameplay plan from the Warriors so far this week, and they'll be allowed to do that.
Image onto Zapman, ultimate forced out, and Netrioid cleans it up even before the no escape comes through. Just gets everything dumped on. Netrioid started the engagement with the ultimate there.
Yeah, he said, look here, Zapman slowed, can't dash. Pretty easy to line up Desert Fury from there. So Chains for Genetics set things up. Panitom, I mean, simple juke there. Scream just won't have the damage.
And Panitom actually a level up here in the jungle on this Athena. You mentioned the farm prowess of this Guardian jungle pickup. And this mid 2v2, though, thought we might see a little bit more action from this assassin. Pegon's played a lot of this set throughout his career, throughout this season. I think we might get some more action in the solo lane before we get a chance to see it. And there we see the power of the Athena. Whether you get it in jungle or you get it in support, that Athena ult is going to do a lot to protect your team across the map.
But it's simple for the Highland Ravens to force it out, and valuable still. Even in just showing presence over towards that soul lane. Threatens enough on SOT that Panitom had to respond. Zap's not in a good spot.
He doesn't have beats either, the slowdown.
Oh, he's all right.
And he does dash into the safe spot in the jungle. Hurriwind would have met him there if the chase had continued. I mean, back towards this set, though, Bobby was talking about it on the desk, how the build would go and whether or not we would see this sigil come out. It is going to be this Warriors act slightly buffed, and with Pegon not getting involved, I mean, maybe just looking to scale a little bit with that buff starter.
Yeah, I like Axe a lot. Maybe if they were a tankier team, you feel a little bit better about it, but you've got opportunity to go between heroes or Sundering. I tend to favor the Sundering Axe. We'll see where Pegon's got his mindset. Scream. Hovering the jungle has walked over 3 total wards, so the Oni Warriors absolutely aware of exactly where he was. Won't be stepping up anytime soon. Doesn't reveal himself on ward on the way back to base, so Warriors likely assuming that Scream's still hovering nearby.
Pretty slow game thus far, and I think to be expected with how slow we've seen things going this weekend. I mean, just last set we saw EFG in pretty much every game of that best of 5, but quite a bit of action attempted by the Ravens. Despite that, only 1 kill on either side, even gold lead thus far. I mean, you look at these two compositions, we've talked about the quad magical, so maybe question to the Oni Warriors. When are you looking to get fight started? Is it around that sort of second item power spike, or do you want to even wait later?
I mean, looking at their draft, I would almost say on the Oni Warriors, if their picks are strong at 3 items, 2 items, that's fine, but because of the Highland Ravens draft having 4 magical, you could just wait until the absolute latest portion of the game and then play the defensive game. Then, taking a lot of chains here. Should likely just use those beads, but is it Hurry on the chopping block?
Gets pulled back in, the taunt, the damage from Panitom, and it won't be the finisher instead. Venenu grabs Netrioid, and the fight is on. Panitom looking to be taken down, and Pegon finds Zapman as Panitom finishes onto Hurriwind. So a 2-for-1 as the Oni Warriors still end up on top of the trade.
Netrioid, though, was a high-value trade for the Ravens. Scream's got to play safe here. Taunt guarantees chains, and chains guarantees the kill. And so Scream will make himself scarce. Oni Warriors further tip the scales in their favor. Not only is it a kill trade favored to them, but being able to strip away a few of those buffs. Also putting a little bit additional gold in their coffers. The Highland Ravens need to figure out the response. Can't allow the Oni Warriors to simply walk them down. Doug, can you show me the ability priority order for the Athena jungle, please? I wonder if Panitom is putting any points into that taunt. Has nearly maxed it out now, so he's got the initiation.
Venenu trying to find some pressure here, forces Pegon to back up, and will not find the red buff invade. I think one of the things we were looking for in this matchup, though, was that mid pressure, whether or not Pegon would find it, but still pressure on the duo lane. Zapman, the chains won't find enough tick damage, but the pressure certainly being held onto. The Oni Warriors have kept the pressure up over here for the entirety of the first 10 minutes.
Netrioid's ult's coming back up. There's the slow. Here comes the ultimate. Should just be hurry.
Hurriwind does not get to survive there. Another great pillar and great lockdown from Genetics on this Ares. It's been a while since we've seen this Ares picked up, especially prioritized there early on, or not, a little bit later on in the draft.
Gross,
but
gross!
Oh my goodness! Will be able to dash under the tier 2 tower. Scream, he comes in and is able to trade 1-for-1 with that final judgment. Netrioid takes down Scream. I'm amazed that Venenu survives.
Yeah, Ven, well played, able to walk himself out of there. Barely survives. Just fortunate to have as much HP as he does, because that was not missed abilities, it wasn't missed auto attacks, didn't have the beads to avoid. Just barely able to make his way back to base, but still does miss out an entire minion wave. So, maybe a small win for the Oni Warriors still. Trading out their one, though. Pretty significant. Does catch Scream up a bit, who was the recipient of kill credit there. Highland Ravens, they got to figure out something soon, because the Oni Warriors scaling really starting to stack up. Transcendence finished. You've already got the Jotuns, and looking across the board, Magic defense starting to come through as well. Genjis for both Panitom and SOT. Heart Ward finished up for Genetics, who is double dipping in value on that item. Or a defense is additional power for Ares, because Ares privilege. And the Oni Warriors in a very strong spot right now. I'd almost like to see them just go ahead and start forcing some of those engagements around the Gold Fury. Could be that they're waiting for Pyro, though.
SoloOrTroll under pressure and pushed up against the wall. Gets the beads forced, though, and now Haddix, maybe the turnaround coming through. Pre-beads there, and Panitom holds the taunt beautifully, and Haddix will fall under the tier 1 tower.
Wow.
Scream looking for the trade as well. Beautifully played from the Oni Warriors, but they've got more pressure to deal with. Zapman running away, and Panitom and SoloOrTroll, they've got to run away on the right-hand side, but Venenu won't have the damage. It'll just be a 2-for-0.
Oni Warriors are just too tanky already. I mean, just Magic defense stacked up so soon, and the Highland Ravens playing at a deficit and haven't got their percent penetration there just yet. It's going to be a little while until things get better. If I get a chance to look at those builds, maybe Scream has to build into some percent soon. Maybe a Spear of the Magus helps out, some additional percentage damage, but the scaling of the Oni Warriors coming much too quickly. I think the Ravens really drafted themselves into a corner here. And it's not just the fact that there's aura defense on the side of the Warriors, or that each individual member can itemize towards Magic defense. It's also bolster defense, giving 50 of each prot to everyone near Genetics. I mean, if it seems like Panitom and Sod are tanky already, they're going to be even tankier once Genetics is making his way across the map. And good eyes on it, Doug has decided to max it out second. Tough stuff, man. I mean, the combos are there. The Ravens can just hit Shadow Lock from Hurriwind and have Ven hit someone with the ultimate. But I'm thinking whoever they're hitting is, so long as it isn't Netrioid, is just going to eat it up.
Beacon up at 12 minutes and taken without fuss from the Oni Warriors, who have now amassed themselves close to a 4,000 gold lead here, just 12 minutes in. This pressure certainly being pushed by, I think, these Guardians a lot. Double blink there, and Scream sniffs it out, is able to stay safe for the time being. But you see the aggressive positioning here on the left side jungle. Have to imagine they were looking for a pick around this Gold Fury. They don't find a pick, but looks like they will find the Gold Fury down low and secured by the Oni Warriors. Nobody from the Ravens able to step up.
And it's got to be going through the Ravens' head now. Well, if we can't fight now, when do we fight? Can't be for the next few items. Oni Warriors are only going to continue building more defense. Things are going to look really rough. Pick-based composition, though, for the Ravens means that if they can isolate members of the Warriors, things could start to look a bit different. Netrioid, of course, the ideal target, but Netrioid, of course, also up 3 levels on Zapman, who has just been accosted the entire game. Maybe you can jump on Pegon, but nobody's posed any threat to Pegon just yet. So it has Bees and Aegis and hasn't been forced to use either of them so far this game. Yeah, it doesn't seem to me that Pegon's too concerned with anything coming his way. And then it's just this constant looming defensive measure of Panitom. We've seen a few attempted ganks to soul lane. Panitom's there. We've seen 1 or 2 in mid. Panitom's there. That global presence further compounding the defensive nature of this Oni Warriors draft, just making it so hard for the Ravens.
And when we talked about the gold lead, haven't really talked about the experience lead, but it is staggering. 1 level in every single role, if not 2 levels ahead for the Athena, for both dual lane members, 3 levels, as you mentioned, for Netrioid on the Anhur. And you get that sense that maybe they were willing to scale. They were happy to get those 3 items, 4th items online and wait for those 5-on-5s because of what we've talked about with the draft. But I mean, they simply don't have to do that if they continue to snowball this kind of a lead. I think a lot of this pressure has been driven by genetics, just the constant push forward on the Ares. And in addition to that, being able to almost consistently stand next to Netrioid and make sure that he's had a good lane. Haddix under pressure and through the ultimate, Pegon takes him down with the help of Panitom, and that's what I'm talking about. They're just in the enemy jungle.
Yeah, Pegon is forced to use the beads there to make sure he's able to stick close to Haddix, but beads for kill trade with Pyromancer right around the corner, one that I'm sure the Oni Warriors happy to take. Netrioid makes the rotation to defend the tier 1 mid tower, much more valuable than the tier 1 on left. So Zapman at least able to grab a few waves, grab a bit of farm, but on the left side of the map, he's pretty far from the Fire Giant.
15-minute Fire Giant this would be if the Oni Warriors stick to it. Genetics, though, he wants to hop off early and look for some of these kills. Hurriwind, he cannot dash, and Pegon on a killing spree will find the kill onto the support. Still, though, Scream in the area, and Haddix on his way back from base if they want to try for a miracle steal to secure here. Maybe the corpse explosion, maybe they want to look for something, but instead, looks like the Highland Ravens giving up the Fire Giant at 16 minutes for the Oni Warriors.
And there's still so much gold to collect on map, and timing should allow them to grab that Oni Fury relatively easily. Fortunately for Zapman, able to knock down a tier 2 tower, so Highland Ravens at least find something on map, but I'm sure there'll be a response just as fast. Tier 1 on right, taken. Time to head back to base. Group up as 5, and I don't see the Oni Warriors losing out on any team fights anytime soon. Haven't quite seen the massive ultimate from Ven, and we're going to have to. I think Ven has to hit like 3 or 4 people with a full charged ultimate to see any chance of winning out on this team fight. Obsidian Shard 3rd slot means this might be as heavy hitting as he's going to get so far this game. Oni Warriors, I mean, their job is simple. Anywhere they can find a fight is a good place to take it. Tier 2 towers, I imagine all 3 go down, fall back to the Fury. Highland Ravens not going to want to take a fight in neutral territory. Might not even be willing to take a fight on a tier 2. Haven't seen any grouping just yet.
All 5 here in mid for the Oni Warriors. Don't have a minion wave quite yet. SoloOrTroll will tank that one up, and it should fall down relatively quickly. And this might be a bit surprising. Still have 2 tier 2 towers to take down in the left lane and in the right side. Scream, he's behind the entirety of the Warriors here, over towards the red buff. So if they want to engage, they may have to deal with the Maman. So far, though, the wave's just being cleared. The Highland Ravens, I mean, they're looking for the right engage. They finally find some damage, but their Phoenix has been poked down to half.
Yeah, I mean, the initiation of the Highland Ravens, if AoE, has to be Haddix. Otherwise, it's single target from Hurriwind, so do they have the damage to kill that one guy? I'm not sure.
3-man silence, and Haddix fires the drums through the team. He will force them back off of the bird, but the Oni Warriors still 5 strong around this objective, and Fire Giant's not dropping off anytime soon. There's the corpse field, and a good silence once again, but can't stop the autos, and it just hits SoloOrTroll. The final judgment takes him down low, and the Phoenix still stands strong. Scream on the engage, drops Netrioid a little bit low, but off the mark on the ultimate, and that's a re-engage for Genetics, a huge pull, and Sot gets one. Pegon finds Zapman. Hurriwind, not long for this world. Venenu falls as well. And in the blink of an eye, a 4-man ultimate from Genetics takes the Oni Warriors to game number 1.
I mean, it's just clinical from the Oni Warriors. Identify the weaknesses of the draft and exploit them. The Highland Ravens were not allowed to play at any portion of the game. Does Haddix have enough to get the Oni Warriors out of the base?
Oh, wow.
I mean, Tier 2 tower's still up, pretty healthy. Fortunately for the Highland Ravens, they've been losing pretty bad, so those respawn timers pretty quick. Able to make themselves alive and ready for the defense, but I think only prolonging the inevitable at this rate. The Oni Warriors, even in just tanking up the Phoenix for, what, 30, 40 entire seconds, playing into the ultimate to the Highland Ravens, able to take out the team fight and win immediately afterward. Love the ultimate from Genetics, connects with 4. Panitom initiating the fight even as a squishy. Looks pretty good on that Athena jungle. And the Oni Warriors break the base and grab themselves a Fury. Highland Ravens, it's not getting any easier anytime soon. It's not as if the Oni Warriors are already 6-slotted. They're not level 20 yet. They're only going to continue to get stronger.
I think just 18 minutes in, you dive the Titan room, and Haddix looking a little bit more tasty, wanting to try and finish off that kill. The Oni Warriors, though, still standing strong, almost a 10,000 gold lead here. And like you said, there is still plenty of room to get stronger. Nobody has sold those recipes just yet, not even any upgraded starters for that squad. I mean, remember this first Fire Giant came in at 15 minutes into the game. It's been an absolute dominant performance from the Warriors thus far. And I'm almost, getting into the heads of the Highland Ravens. Does this feel like one where you're trying to start thinking about game 2 and how you're adapting? Or is it one where you're still like, okay, let's group up in the jungle, let's try and find a pick somewhere?
Yeah, there has never once been a team that was just thinking about the next game in their match. There's plenty of time between matches to consider opportunities there. I mean, you got to look for win conditions, and I don't think it's in the PvP, so I like what we're seeing from Scream and Zapman. We're not going to win a fight. Maybe we can backdoor the Titan. Maybe we can catch one guy. But instead, it's them caught.
Genetics grabs Zapman, and he is removed from the map. Panitom grabs the last hit there. You're trying to look for some macro play. You lose one in the process. That seems to still open up the Fire Giant here on this right-hand side. I imagine you're looking to still give this up if you're the Highland Ravens, but I mean, you're talking about those win conditions. What are you trying to play through? Do you have to try and isolate a member, or is it a structure game here? Just try and make a path if you do win a fight?
Well, the Highland Ravens are so far behind that win conditions have not been exposed just yet. What we saw from Zap and Scream was, hey, maybe if we can just knock down a bird, we might be able to find an opportunity to work our way into the base, sneak in there. It's not team fighting in neutral territory. Base defense, I think, looked all right from the Highland Ravens. Very nearly able to repel the Oni Warriors until that Category 5 disaster ultimate from Genetics. So if they want to group up and play on birds and buy 20 more minutes, catch up and build a bit, might help out for the Highland Ravens. Essentially right now, they're preying on mistakes from the Warriors, waiting for an overextension. And the Warriors are maybe the most likely team to make mistakes like that. They have a bit of fun, especially when they've got massive leads like this. So keep your eyes on Pegon. Keep your eyes on SOT. Those two generally the ones getting a bit over-aggressive. Highland Ravens are waiting to play their own game. Their hands are no longer on the levers of power. It's simply play defense, hope that they can withstand the storm.
Oni Warriors grouped up, looking to group up S5 as they still have Pegon back farther a little bit in that mid lane. And the Highland Ravens did put up a solid defense around that middle Phoenix. It's only gotten more difficult, though. You're going to have to keep that mid Phoenix alive. It's just respawn. You've got fire minions pushing down a bit. And now you're going to have 5 members with a minion wave on this left-hand side. Watch for Panitom with the dash taunt on this engage. Last time it was Hurriwind slowing things down on the silences. The Oni Warriors looking for the right moment.
Mid Phoenix low. It's a 3-2 split. Panitom in first, finds Scream, and he's burnt fast.
Taunt in, Scream finds the dash for safety, and Pegon will not be able to get the follow-up, but maybe it's Haddix who gets the beads forced early, and that Phoenix still stands strong, but the left side will fall, and the health bars look like they're still at full for the Oni Warriors pretty much. So much power on this composition, and still 5 strong as this middle Phoenix incredibly weak. The right Phoenix has a tier 2 tower standing in the way, but they're not focused on that right now. Mid Phoenix goes down, and another taunt onto Hurriwind. He will keep his life, but they're right outside of the Titan room.
Panitom has burnt 3 beads and found 3 easy targets now to start off the fight. A taunt on a Scream, Haddix, or Hurriwind would just cost them their lives. Hurry, fortunately, still has that ultimate. Might make the Oni Warriors work just that much harder for it.
Waiting for the right moment. Screammmmm on the right-hand side. They don't even care about the tier 2 tower. They're looking for the potential and or at least some more kills. Haddix taunted back in and will be pulled here unless he goes into the ultimate. So you force some members out and the Oni Warriors forced to disengage for a second. But Screammmmm taunted back in and the follow-up isn't there for him either. The Titan takes a little bit of damage from minions, but the Oni Warriors not on the same page with that follow-up.
Yeah, SOT a little bit too far from the fight. Pegon hovering on the left-hand side. Netrioid falling back to resustain. Was not quite able to close out any of those kills, despite, again, Panitom finding phenomenal taunts throughout the entirety of that engagement. Pegon wants the 1v1, the 3-time world champion on the back foot.
Dodges out the stun and gets the beads forced there. And will find the pick onto Zapman. Maybe a small opening here. You don't have the Anhur, you don't have the Athena, you don't have 5 strong for the Oni Warriors. So despite getting that pick, looks like they won't be able to push for the end just yet. But I mean, what can they do but make the Titan continuously weaker? Still, this tier 2 tower to fall, and they grab the Pyromancer and yet another Phoenix to push down.
Not a whole lot of time left on this Fire Giant power play, so the Oni Warriors going to slow it down from here. Head back to base, spend up all that gold they'd accumulated, and just victory lap for the next whatever 3-4 minutes it's going to take for them to close this one out. The Highland Ravens, I mean, it is 99.999 odds for the Oni Warriors. Highland Ravens depended on a miracle to make a comeback from this position. At this point, I've seen enough on base defense to say that the Highland Ravens can't take it there. I'd almost just say Hail Mary time. Group up as 5, see if you can catch someone on left side jungle, send Ven at the Fire Giant, see if maybe he can steal it with ultimate. But even then, Genetics at level 18, he's got a lot of damage to play with.
Genetics is 2 levels ahead of Zapman here. Burns the beads and the ultimate there from Hurriwind.
Ooh, good taunt.
And a late taunt there.
Silence, excuse me.
Great silence from Hurriwind will prevent the follow-up from Panitom. But this grouping from the Oni Warriors is almost meant to punish the Highland Ravens trying anything. You want to step up? You want to try and get farm anywhere? No, we're going to make sure that we add just another extra 9 to that 99.999% and make sure that we are as guaranteed to win this game as possible. And remember, this is a Worlds qualification match. This is just game 1. Oni Warriors looking to set the tone here with this dominant performance, almost 20,000 gold up, a Fire Giant at 15, 20, and now 26 minutes into the game. Nobody from the Highland Ravens going to be willing to step up, try that Hail Mary as you mentioned. They're going to have to try and stand strong under this Phoenix Siege once again.
And the Phoenix Siege has been strong for the Oni Warriors. I'd like to see SOT hold on to ultimate until he's actually in the throne room. Would make it very difficult for the Highland Ravens to actually defend their Titan. Mid and left Phoenix coming back up, but weakened, permanently weakened. The Oni Warriors likely can just sweep their way across the map. Any runic bombs in play, 2 in pocket for Netrioid. Not exactly the ideal person to be holding them. Difficult for him to get into that real short range, but maybe not that difficult considering how ahead the Oni Warriors really are, approaching that 20,000 mark. Highland Ravens, it's all about finding that one priority target. I've seen a whole lot of hanging back, trying to return poke. It's got to be an all-in, I think. Have Screammmmm try and isolate Netrioid. Netrioid, the only one, I think, that's really going to go down easily here now that Pegon's finished up his axe, has a little bit more utility to play with. You might be able to shut down the Anhur. Anhur is the battery of the team. Any ADC of Fire Giant, the one you want to keep your eyes on. But your mid-Phoenix already taken. Your right side Titan going to go down before it meets the enemy Titan. And the Highland Ravens not exactly stepping up.
Everything stands in the favor of the Ullr side now. The Oni Warriors, they've got these Phoenixes to take. Mid-Phoenix already down. Left Phoenix looking to fall without much of a fight at all. It's just SoloOrTroll and Panitom looking there. One more auto will do it. And the Highland Ravens looking to stand strong in their Titan room. Genetics burns the beads off of a couple and still waiting to find that perfect engagement. They've got their Titan, though, pushing up the right-hand side, and that plus waiting for the fire minions. I'm not sure that you can try and get a much more guaranteed than the Oni Warriors pacing right here, trying to make sure everything possible on the map is in their favor.
Keep your eyes on Ven and Hurry. No beads to play with, and an Athena on the other side will make it very difficult to survive. Haddix taunted in, and another bead's lost.
Scream blinks in, looking for Panitom, and the corpses get dropped. Panitom back in on the taunt, and Scream falls. Pegon on the dash, and Netrioid finds Zapman, and the Oni Warriors looking to march it down. Only 3 members from the Ravens surviving, and the Titan becomes the focus. The Ullr Titan as well, helping out on that damage, and the Oni Warriors take game 1.
Massive draft chasm. The Highland Ravens thought they could make the magic work with 4 magical. Does not work that way, and the Oni Warriors pick up the pace around that 8-minute mark, wrestle control of the match, and hold on to it for the entirety of the match from there on out. Objective play looks good. Team fights look good as well. Highland Ravens, we didn't get to see anything there, and I'm sure the Ravens themselves will say, look, that's just one where we lost before we loaded in.
Yeah, that's a bit of a clinic from the Oni Warriors, not only in the draft, but I mean they executed on field as well, certainly taking advantage of those 4 magicals. And my mind still goes back to that quadruple ultimate, that no escape from Genetics in the mid lane. I mean, it felt like they could have ended the game at 18 minutes in after a 15-minute Fire Giant. Just incredible team play pulling through. They pick the Ares, haven't seen it in a while, and Genetics looks fantastic on this pressure pick.
I think all adaptations have to lie with the Highland Ravens now, and adaptation could be very easy. 1 less magical pick, and things look a whole lot better. What we saw from the Oni Warriors was second-slotted magic defense nearly across the board, and from there was never any kill pressure on the side of the Highland Ravens. Just don't even think about that one. If I'm Marbach in my little Raven outfit, I'm going in there and saying, guys, game 1 what? Didn't even see it.
Yeah, he's got to flat bring the energy to the team, try and increase the spirits up in the booth, perhaps. Certainly trying to put that one out of your mind, but that's all the momentum now in the hands of the Oni Warriors. If you're the Ravens, is it just as simple as taking a magical pick off the board, or do you want to try and maybe formulate some sort of game plan? Maybe you need duo pressure, shut down Genetics here.
I mean, you could do anything, any adaptation, any one thing is better than what we just saw.
That's fair enough. Highland Ravens need to bounce back after that game number 1. Stick around. We'll be back after the break.
Things. One of my many skills. I'm making things up. All in my mind. 'Cause I analyze their body language. I hear every change in their tone. Maybe they hate me, somehow I blame me. My mama said, that's just the weight of the world. It's not personal, it's just how it works. Don't be angry for too long or get burned. 'Cause that's just the weight of the world. Shake it off now. Personal, it's just how it works. Shake it off now.
3 a.m. I just touched down. Wanna call me to buzz down. It's love over lust now. I don't know who to trust now. Tell me who can I trust now? Hey. Yeah. It's 3 a.m. I just touched down. Wanna call me to buzz down. It's love over lust now. I don't know who to trust now. Yeah. Who can I trust now? Hey. Lately I've been on the go. Stewart's home away from home. Inner teed up on my own. Load up the beat, I'm in my zone. I feel alive today. Don't fuck up my vibe today. Don't come at me stirring my pot. You might get erased from the plot and end up under plot of them grass blades. They been throwing me mad shade. All this ducking and dodging, your offs in the wavelengths. You negative headspace. That version of me that you thought that you knew had been newly updated. I'm activated. Whatever they on oversaturated. I'm the cure, my intention is pure. My life been a blur, yes sir. Yeah. I've been stitching my wounds and flipping my tunes, reversing my curses. I wrote it in braille, never stale. I spoke it in cursive. I'm not from where earth is. The features ethereal, the ancestors surging through veins. I've been curving and purging all person in places and things that don't serve me. My hands on the cloud, my feet where the turf is. That's perfect. On God, yeah, I'm activated. Control, burning down trees. Big shot on my ashtrays. Never empty, I'm litty. I've been painting the city. Still painting the city. It's 3 a.m. I just touched down. Wanna call me to buzz down. It's love over lust now. I don't know who to trust now. Tell me who can I trust now? Hey. Yeah. It's 3 a.m. I just touched down. Wanna call me to buzz down. It's love over lust now. I don't know who to trust now. Yeah. Who can I trust now? I've been painting the city. It's 3 a.m. I just touched down. Wanna call me to buzz down. Dame la plata, plata. Cash, cash, cash. Get money, get money.
It truly is the best time of the year jumping into the SWC, that second week of January. It's a great way to kick off a brand new year as well. So make sure that you are tuning into the event, whether you're going to be there in person or watching it online, whether it be on Twitch or YouTube or any other channels. Make sure you just check out the SWC. If you don't get a chance to pick up the merch there in person, make sure you pick some up over at shop.hi-rezstudios.com/SWC. We got jerseys, t-shirts, hats, bags, stickers, pens. We got just about everything. I think we got a full jogger set as well that you can pick up. There's all kinds of great stuff that you can go over and pick up online over at shop.hi-rezstudios.com/SWC, or if you're going to be there in person, pick some up while you're there. It's a great opportunity to rep your favorite teams or just to rep the SMITE scene in general for the Season 10 SMITE World Championship. Again, those dates, January 12th through 14th, where we get to kick off the illustrious event in Arlington, Texas. It's going to be a lot of exciting matchups and a very fun weekend, so you're not going to want to miss out on that. Just like you're not going to want to miss out on the remainder of the set here. Game number one was a very fast-paced one, Bobby, by the Oni Warriors. Nearly 18.5 minutes. Thought they were going to be ending the game there. Played with their food just a little bit too much, trying to get that kill on Haddix, greeting the kill towards the fountain. Didn't get that. Game ends up going just a little bit longer, but ever so dominant still for the Oni Warriors all the way through this one.
Yeah, and I think we can focus on the draft by the Ravens. I think it was rather obvious heading into that first game it was going to be an uphill battle for the Ravens. I think their comp doesn't make a ton of sense with what they want to do. And the opposite side, the Warriors had the exact style they want, the exact type of gods that they want, and they played it near flawlessly. Dominance in the dual lane, pulling relics wherever they can, punishing relics being down, and getting a lead onto their Anhur, and using their global with this Athena, this set, so much chase down potential that they had. They really used it very well at almost all points in the game. And really at no point was I thinking the Warriors weren't going to win this one. It was that dominant.
I mean, we're pushing, as you can see here, 14.5, almost 15 minutes in. And you look up, we're 5, almost 6,000 gold up, and then you just keep going further and further in the game. Here's 3 minutes later. Oh, another like 3,000 gold for the team. And it just felt like every minute that kept going by was another 1,000 gold the Oni Warriors were getting over the Highland Ravens, where we're pushing near 20K in the lead for the Oni Warriors by the time that this game is starting to round itself out. But then 18.5-minute push again. Probably a bit of jumping the gun to try and go for that one. Still 2 towers up at that time, but maybe just trying to go for the greedy kill more than anything over the end. But all of that comes off the back of a great Ares pull by Genetics. This Ares got so much value on beats pressure this game.
Yeah, so much power in the beats pressure, and then also just having that bolster defense. If you have just one resource of damage available, this magical damage is really all the Ravens had. He went Heartward, and then bolster defense, Thebes, so many auras to the side of the rest of the Warriors. That magical damage is just not too effective by the Ravens. And as you can see across the board, I mean, other than this Thoth, who's a very poke-oriented god, not a lot of damage anywhere for the Ravens. And then you look at the opposite side, Pegon, 604, Genetics a part of 13 kills, Panitom a part of 14 kills. That core that the Warriors had were kind of like the playmakers for their comp, and the side lanes did what they needed to do. Obviously, Net was winning lane, Solo was living a few ganks, but I think the Ravens just kind of need to rethink their strategy. I think their prio on their top 2 is fine. I think Raijin is a great god. Maman is a great god. I think it really threw it off with that Thoth pick in that 3rd slot, and you and I kind of talked about it a little bit. If we just pick our ADC, we pick that Hachiman before it goes to that next phase and it's banned, and then you can actually just decide whatever you want to do for Maman, maybe mid. Maybe you can keep the Maman in jungle, switch it up there. I think it makes a lot more sense, but fortunately they did go for that Thoth, threw up their P's and B's, but now we're jumping into P's and B's. And with Warriors taking first side, or Ravens taking second side again, maybe a little switch up there. So far, first ban coming through. Naja. Trying to keep Sprack off that, Scream off that. It makes a lot of sense. And the Khepri again. First 2 bans so far, same as last game.
Yeah, really not wanting Scream to have any fun on that pick. Along with the Emoji ban, just a standard one to go. It's also one of Hurriwind's better picks that he's had over the course of his years. Made some really strong highlight plays from it on that selection, and just in general, the god being as good as she is, with the inclusion of Fabulous Tubes kind of back into the build, has really kind of skyrocketed that god back up once more. Highland Ravens, though, change up their second ban. It was Ullr in the first game to go along with the Khepri. This time, gonna be let through. Is that enough for the Oni Warriors to now top pick that one? I'm not so sure, because Athena is still up. That gave them so much trouble, and it will be picked up once more for the Warriors.
Yeah, no surprise there. The Warriors have been prioing this Athena more than most other gods, so they're going to be locking that in again. Ravens had the opportunity to go the Raijin, Maman again. Raijin locked in. So far, thinking about that second one. The Anhur instead of the Maman, but I mean, already, I like the top 2 prior. I like the Maman Raijin a lot more, but I think Anhur has just shown so much strength when that Bog is banned. It makes just so much sense to get this on her here.
So Maman will go to the opposite side. Now under the belt of the Oni Warriors. We'll see if that one gets put into Panitom's hands, or if maybe we see Pegon or SOT try their hand at the god. Because I will say, again, the Maman yesterday didn't quite click for Panitom. He didn't really have the greatest performance on that one. Maybe just an off day on the god. We'll see if maybe he gets to try and reprise that, try and have a little bit of a better matchup. Or if he lets one of his teammates have a chance at that one. Ullr, which has been banned in the first game from the Highland Ravens and banned against the Warriors in general, now snakes its way through and will join into the top 3 of the Warriors. And given that we do have the Athena, Maman, the Athena's already shown the flexibility from game 1, whether you throw it support or jungle, Maman showing that she's been able to do jungle or mid, and now Ullr, which on this team has 3 different roles. It feels like nobody might be knowing where these gods are going.
Yeah, I mean, this is a full-on flex draft so far by the Warriors, and the opposite side, the Ravens. Everything pretty confirmed where it's going to be going. Maybe a tiny bit of flex potential on that Raijin between mid and solo. But Afro, nearly guaranteed support. On her, nearly guaranteed ADC. So we have the dual lane confirmed for the Ravens. Kind of curious to see what the Warriors end up doing, because there is like a more normal style that they will be going. Maman in jungle, Ullr in mid, Athena in support. But it could get as funky as Ullr solo, Maman in mid, Athena jungle. They have so many opportunities to play these gods wherever, so that flex potential is going to be through the roof here. Going into the bans, the Ravens ban away that set. They do not want Pegon to get that again. And the Warriors ban away this rat, something that wasn't picked in the last P's and B's, but always going to be a strong jungle. And that's what I want to see. I want to see Izanami banned against Netrioid. When Anhur's not picked, he likes playing for pressure. Something like that Ullr run, that Izanami, I like that throwaway.
Yeah, so throwing out the Izanami, keep Netrioid down, especially after he just had a great Anhur game, taking that away and taking his next comfort pick out. A wise call from the Ravens. Pretty standard as to where these gods are likely to line up unless this Raijin goes mid. Possibly seeing that one go over to Haddix's hands for the solo lane once again. Aphrodite was that last pick by the Ravens for Hurriwind, so we could see his hand on the god this time. So now where the Ravens go, still needing their jungle and still needing either their mid or their solo. Morgan Le Fay still up if you want to go for the double mage. You've been seeing that a lot as a combo if given the opportunity. So I wonder where the Highland Ravens do go. Given the situation you're in now, if you're Scream, are you calling for your pick now, only knowing what the first three are in the Warriors, or are you waiting for the full draft to go for your selection?
If I'm Scream, I'm wanting to wait to see the entire draft to decide what I want to go. It does mess it up a little bit, not keeping that Raijin at least semi-flexed, but just picking your mid laner here, something that has a nice value here. I mean, we saw a lot of value from Thoth, and we've seen it picked before, something that could be locked in here. It was also played last game. It just makes more sense when you don't have triple magical in the top 3 and you still need your support, so I don't mind the Thoth here as much, especially with how much value he actually... I mean, he did 22,000 damage last game. A poke-oriented character, so the damage is going to be a little bit higher anyway, but I do think the Thoth value is still there for the Ravens, but taking their time a little bit, thinking about what they want to go for. Scream has a few picks here also that they could go for if they really do want to wait on that last pick, but Morrigan is what they're opting for. Something that, I mean, we saw Dardes play it in the first set today, and it looked great.
Yeah, that Morrigan pick has really kind of wheels its way back into the minds of a lot of players, and especially just onto the battleground for a few different specifics. As mentioned, Dardes in the previous set looked so good on the god, it had to get banned away from him. And seeing some of the selections that the Oni Warriors have already drafted gives some good targets maybe to the Morrigan. I think immediately getting Athena for your side, jump over into a team fight right away, get an extra Maman. That's what we were seeing some options towards. Give one team a Maman, get Morrigan, and have one for your own team fight. But now we'll maybe get some answers from the Oni Warriors to where these three gods are going. Chel, very likely going over to SOT in that solo lane. 3 games on it yesterday. And the Hachiman drafted up means we'll be seeing very likely an Ullr mid, and then throwing over the Hachiman Athena duo lane.
I think that makes the most sense. I think we both were in agreement that Maman on Panitom, he didn't play it all too great yesterday, but I think it's still something where I want to see him play it again because I think there is potential for the character there. I think the draft also around the Maman wasn't very strong yesterday, and I think this one makes a lot more sense. Free engage with the Athena, beats pull on the Ullr, good chase down potential with the rest, and I think I like this entire draft by the Warriors more with the Maman in jungle. And then looking at the Raven side, the last pick, Nemesis, which I don't know if I love this Ravens draft again. It's just another weird set of gods that don't really have a ton of stuff together. There's not a ton of CC. Yes, like a Nem Afro late game is very strong. Afro Anhur, we've talked about a bunch on broadcast about how good this is as a duo. But overall, I don't think the draft has enough strengths to match up with what the Warriors have.
I think I'll then lead this question towards you kind of around the Nemesis. Typically when Nemesis is meta, it's because there's a lot of really strong tanks you need to kill. You need a lot of big HP targets you kind of want to burn away. Things like Cthulhu, Zhang Kui, whenever he was in a time of meta. We don't really have a whole lot of that kind of style of play anymore with all the mages jumping over in solo lane, even mages in support. You look at the Warrior side, there's only the Athena. Is that just the primary target for these Nemesis ultimates at this point, or is Nemesis starting to, or maybe going to have to kind of re-identify herself as just a high burst damage style of assassin?
Yeah, I think she's going to have to become more a high burst style assassin or a 1v1 character. I think if Nem gets ahead, she's one of the hardest characters to 1v1, and Maman is another character that has very good 1v1s. But I think if you compare how these 1v1s will happen, I think if Nem gets even a slight lead, maybe that is where they're looking for. Have Scream kind of split off and try to 1v1 the Maman. Problem with that is, even if you are looking for that 1v1, the global Athena ult is going to make it so you're fighting a 2v1, even if you do have the Morrigan on your side to transform into the Athena. Also, makes it really unique in what could be happening, because do you want to global ult over with your mid laner and then have a lot of damage elsewhere? But I still don't mind Nemesis as a god. She makes sense. I think you just need more CC around the character because the character doesn't have enough on her own.
Yeah, it feels like initiation maybe a bit lacking here on the side of the Ravens. You can Raijin Thunder Crash in, maybe throw a kiss if you're the Aphrodite, or maybe you are banking a lot on this Morrigan, get that Athena transformation, have that dash taunt for yourself right away, but feels like this almost kind of in towards more of like a counterpunch style of draft. Wait for the Oni Warriors to walk in, maybe try and answer back from there. So for the Highland Ravens, where do they find their win conditions in this early game?
It's got to be duo. I think they can. I just think their late game feels a little bit more weak, but I think they can dominate duo lane with this Afro on her.
Well, we'll have to see if the Highland Ravens can get through that duo lane, can find themselves to a late game team fight. Will they be able to tie up the set, or the Warriors go up 2-0? Let's jump right into game number 2.
Thank you so much, J-Mac and Inbound. Oni Warriors going up against the Highland Ravens. Still Frog, still Myth, still Doug, bringing you the action. The Oni Warriors up 1-0 after a dominant Game 1 performance. Going to be interested in what the Highland Ravens were looking like in the adaptation phase. And you heard it there on the desk. I mean, I think I side with Bobby a little bit. I'm not sure that I have a clear idea on what this composition is looking to do necessarily as we go through the stages of the game, early, mid, and late, where they're looking to play through.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly better. Let's start there. It's certainly better.
It's a good start.
And I think that's all we could really ask for, right? Just go ahead, lean back, let the pros do their thing. You got pressure. You can play through that. Maybe that's just it.
Yeah, maybe I mean, Bobby mentioned on the desk the duo lane, the Aphrodite on her here specifically. We've seen not Panic Cat. I don't know why that name popped into my head. The Jade Dragons have played quite a bit of that Aphrodite on her. And I think that pressure in dueling, especially, I mean, Zapman was 3 levels down in game number 1, maybe trying to provide a little bit of guaranteed pressure over there in that duel lane up against the support from the Oni Warriors. I'm completely blanking on the draft.
We only got
here
to see it for like a
in my
second.
head.
It's fine.
Only got to see it for a second. The Athena, right? Athena Hachi. That's what it is. Athena Hachiman, Aphrodite on her, giving a little bit more pressure over to the Highland Ravens.
Yeah, so I think playing through for the Highland Ravens, the duo lane's certainly one way in. You can leverage the additional power that Anhur has throughout the early. I could also see the Highland Ravens trying to reprise an attempted play we had seen in Game 1, which was 3 attempts at SOT's life. Chel not exactly the safest pick on the planet, so jumping on her early could be one way in. The only difficulty is you're dealing with the exact same issues as game number 1, which is that there's an Athena on the map, giving over a little bit of additional damage mitigation. So global presence from that Athena has been incredibly difficult to deal with all year. I don't imagine that changes out here. Otherwise, I think the Highland Ravens have got pretty strong late game. Their initiation, although single target for the most part, still is strong thanks to the Taiko drum from Haddix. Certainly some opportunities. Good God, that's lopsided poll.
Yeah, 16% there for the Highland Ravens. Tell you what, if the Ravens do win, those fans going to be really rewarded with the points, the channel points, getting a heavy return on that 16%. But I think after game 1, it would be maybe a little bit foolish to bet against the Oni Warriors. You can call a little bit of that, or I mean maybe that's the question. How much of game 1 are you calling into just that draft diff from the Ravens?
I think they loaded into a loss. I mean, I said it in the game. I just hated that composition from the Ravens. Bobby talked about it on the desk, so we'll see. I think this time around, certainly much, much better, so long as they can survive some of that early pressure.
Wow, Zapman taking a lot of damage. You're forced to use the Chel there early if you're Hurriwind, just to keep the ADC alive, and he will survive. Zapman will not fall for first blood, at least quite yet. We haven't seen it, but Genetics already putting the power towards the Athena, something that the Oni Warriors, as has the rest of the league, continued to value here. This flex potential, you give it over to the support this time. Genetics was doing a great job of maintaining that pressure on the Ares last game. I think with the Athena, just you have the global pressure, the taunt. No surprise that they're going to try and force down this pressure, but I mean, Hurriwind on the Aphrodite, I think maybe once you get a little bit more on the abilities, will try a little bit harder to get that pressure back if you're the Ravens.
Yeah, I mean, the Ravens certainly have potential to fight back in. Zapman already showing how much sustain he's been given by Hurriwind. Back to full HP and maintains his potion economy, actually winning out up against Netrioid, who had elected to pick up double multi-pot. And so, I think keep your eyes on the Ravens duo. That's where I'd be playing through if I were them. Scream, attempt on the shield buff, successful, which is so significant to getting off onto the right foot. So, the Oni Warriors won't have too many opportunities to push their lead. And although Athena looked real good on that first wave, I think it's just because Zapman is caught off guard by that taunt. Now, things should start to turn around slowly.
Blink in from Scream, dash in onto Pegon. And the Aegis gets forced. No beads quite yet. Beads down though for Venenu. And Panitom finds the first blood. Jungle mid pressure there. And Venenu will fall first.
Man, that's tough for Ven. Steps up, trying to peel out for Scream. Had already used his beads just earlier, so has nothing left for that stun from Panitom. And do not sleep on Maman Brigitte's damage. Certainly high if he's allowed to free cast, and that's exactly what Panitom did.
Dash in onto the Maman though, and dash in from Panitom. Keeps him safe for a second, but not long for this world. Scream able to answer back as they were looking for this blue buff invade, but now it'll only be SoloOrTroll up there, still looking for some aggression as the Highland Ravens battling back, trying to maybe find the purple buff invade on this left side of the map.
Sott's in some trouble. Doesn't have the ultimate, doesn't have a lot of mana to play with either. Doesn't pick up the blue buff and just gets a bit over-aggressive. Scream, MP5, gives him the slice and dice. Confirms the kill for himself. I think maybe if Sott decides to walk out, he gets a little bit further, but certainly doesn't escape. Now with Haddix so close by and Leap coming back up. So I like the idea from SOT. Well, if I'm not making out alive, I'll at least try and take someone with me. Unfortunately for him, just off the mark.
He does steal the blue buff away, at the very least, so will not have access to that if you're Haddix. Thought they might go for the blue buff invade after the fact. Instead, SoloOrTroll falls down. That's 2 kills now for the Highland Ravens, both falling onto Scream. And Bobby talked a little bit about it on the desk, this Nemesis matchup into, the Oni Warriors' entire composition, but specifically this Maman Brigitte, maybe Nemesis, getting a little bit of a lead, one of the few gods that is looking to have that 1v1 versus this magical assassin.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting 1v1. I'm having a hard time imagining how it's going to play out. I think it is almost completely contingent on how well Scream utilizes the shield, but Maman Brigitte's also got answers to it. Could just go immediately in towards the stun and then play her own damage game immediately afterward, or just dash out, avoid the 1v1 entirely. We'll have to see. Otherwise, how difficult would it really be to time the shield for Maman Brigitte passive? I'd argue pretty difficult, so I'll keep my eyes on that one. If it ever comes down to an auto attack battle, though, I'll tell you what, Scream's going to win that every single time.
Blink in from Panitom, and Athena ult on the way. Scream deleted from the map, and Panitom grabs another one. Venenu, though, with the transformation, trying to answer one back, and will not be able to have the damage. Panitom and Scream make up all the kills in the map.
Yeah, Panitom certainly did some VOD review on how to play that Maman Brigitte after yesterday's performances, and looking much better on it already here today. Playing around that pressure very, very well. Speaking of, this is something we've seen from Ven 5 times now already, just using the decoy to block out that axe stun from Pegon. That's got to be frustrating. I mean, Ven is on the ball right now mechanically for that.
Netrioid gets his dash canceled out, but the Impale is off the mark. Ultimate comes through from both ADCs, and Netrioid will survive. Have to imagine if the Impale hits there, a little bit more opportunity for a kill. But you feel that pressure coming through. Zapman and Scream combine over there. And now that the supports have perhaps left the lane, rotating the mid a little bit earlier than last game, this Anhur, I think, going to fare a little bit better in this lane matchup than the Cernunnos of last game.
Anhur is the highest pressure hunter in the game. If Zapman's not getting pressure here, be hard-pressed to find a god he'll find it on. Purple buff invade successful, I believe, for the Highland Ravens. Hurriwind and Scream teaming up for that one. Genetics not quite able to hold it down on his own. I wonder, though, now Scream showing presence on the left side of the map, has to take away all of that farm.
Okay, Zap.
He's fine. Relax.
Okay.
That's a 3-time world champion,
I got scared.
Frog.
I got scared, man. I'm dying to that in my rank game.
You shouldn't be.
100%, dude.
That's PvE.
That's PvE. Zap takes a little bit of extra farm there under the tier 2 tower. I think this pressure, though, you got to imagine they want to use this pressure a little bit earlier if you're the Highland Ravens, because this is already starting to, I don't want to say spiral, that's too aggressive of a term, right? But this is a 2,000 or so gold lead for the Oni Warriors off of but just pure farm, right? They're evening kills, but they've gotten a little bit more of this neutral farm, perhaps getting off a couple of those buff invades here and there, pressure in some of these lanes, despite some of the attempts that we've seen from the Ravens. I mean, it's these opportunities from the Warriors as Panitom rotates over and takes the life of Hurriwind once again. It's this jungle Maman getting the action started on this left-hand side. Meanwhile, SoloOrTroll needs the defender of Olympus. The peel will come through, though, and Sot trying to survive and will do so successfully. Good peel from Genetics.
Yeah, Pegon not there just fast enough. If he's able to get over that wall, Scream would have likely lost his life after utilizing the dash to chase out onto SOT. That ultimate combo, SOT and Genetics, just makes it so difficult to shut down the Soul Inner. So much damage mitigation he can play with on that right-hand side. Maybe that's why you pick up the Nemesis. Okay, well, I can't stop Athena from ulting somebody, but maybe I can deal with some of that defense that she's given over. Clearly not enough just yet. Haddix, the next damage slot. Scream picks up a finished mace item. All of a sudden, there's maybe a little bit more damage to play with, but until then, I think better suited using your time elsewhere. SOT just a little too tanky.
This is an interesting build for Scream. I mean, certainly looking to finish off that mace item. You think there's any logic behind the tier 2 or the tier 1 item there in that first slot and then the Atalanta's bow, or you think it's just on the gold he had when he backed?
He got back to base, could afford Atalanta, said I was going to slot it anyway. Attack speed, power, it's all the things he needs. Helps out with some of that chase down too. Hurriwind, Zapman attempting a purple buff invade here. I believe able to secure it this time.
Hurriwind trying to find the escape for Zapman there and will do so successfully. Hurriwind does not secure that purple buff though. Netrioid able to grab it successfully. And back towards the jungles, I'm really focused on this experience lead. We talked about it being in favor of the Warriors in game number 1 in every role. Right now, maybe in favor just in the jungle, but I mean, briefly, that was a 3-level lead there for Panitom. And this pressure certainly continuing to roam its way around on the map. Genetics once again. Just the threat of that dash taunt's going to grab them a tier 1 tower.
Yeah, I mean, the Ravens are really just playing to the tune of the Oni Warriors drum here. I mean, the Warriors have chose every single engagement. They're choosing where the pressure is. The only proactive play we're really seeing from the Ravens are these attempted invades on the purple buff, and I think essentially telegraphed in P's and B's when you have an Anhur on your team, you're going to try and play through pressure there, but hasn't really amounted to a whole lot. Biggest difference is Panitom on map, that level lead, 1.5, but it's the gold that's really starting to build up in his favor, nearly 1,000, maybe a little over. Scream in the jungle. Highland Ravens got to find somewhere to draw that line in the sands.
This might be it, though. Aggressive positioning from the Warriors. And the Athena ultimate onto Panitom. Everybody staying above 75% HP right there as the Soul Laners will poke each other out a little bit. Look at Pegon, though. He is deep in the enemy jungle looking to chase out Venenu. This pressure on the Ullr, have to imagine if you don't see some of those blocked axes, maybe Pegon's looking for a little bit more pressure. Nice try on the Impale. Netrioid will be forced to dash away. And I think, you know, I match what you said, Oni Warriors consistently the ones looking for that pressure. They find themselves in the enemy jungle, and in the cases where they do get the pressure, they find a pick where they find an objective. And even in cases where they don't, right there, they're outnumbered, and everybody gets out. Nobody even drops below 80% HP.
Yeah, positioning on map, vision on map, all favoring the Oni Warriors. I mean, look at the wards all the way across the Highland Ravens jungle. Those are very aggressive on both left and right. Nowhere the Ravens going to rotate through without the Oni Warriors being privy to it. So with as aggressive wards as they've got, I think the Oni Warriors are going to start posturing for this gold free sooner rather than later. Zapman able to secure the buff there. Return a bit of his own HP. I'll be keeping my eyes on Panitom. Panitom's a major part of the objective DPS, so once he's on the left side of the map, that's when Gold Fury really becomes an option. But I can also see a world where the Oni Warriors say we don't really need to risk it. I mean, there's decent steal potential from Desert's Fury, so if Zapman's up, why even look towards the gold? We can just continue rolling through PvP as we have been. But forcing a fight there, forcing a response from the Highland Ravens could serve the Oni Warriors well. I'm looking at the disengage potential from the Ravens, and Scream and whoever Hurriwind's linked to has it. Otherwise, chase down from Panitom. Pegon's incredibly fast. Genetics dash taunt. Can't underplay how strong that is. And then Netrioid's ultimate is a chase down tool too. Just make it real difficult for the Highland Ravens to start backing themselves up. And tier 1 mid tower is generally where teams start to retreat towards, especially this early in the game. And it's already gone. Things not looking great for the Ravens.
Around that 12-minute mark is when that beacon will spawn. And once again, similar to Game 1, Oni Warriors take that without any contestation from the Highland Ravens. And I mean, if you're the Oni Warriors, you're maybe starting to think about these neutral objectives. Perhaps you don't want to risk it, but what risk is there as Venenu holds on to his beads the entire time right there and will not get punished for it. Just won't make it back to base, but begs the question of this positioning is Scream is far up and Hurriwind Haddix rotating over from the solo lane as well. A 4-man, 5-man grouping as Venenu joins with the transformation. But the beads get forced, as does the Undying Love, and everybody from the Highland Ravens now on the retreat.
Yeah, Ravens utilizing that changeling to get an Athena on their side. Have to take the fight because Haddix is there. SOT says, I don't really need to be there, and I couldn't get there in time, so instead pushes down a tower on right. So in a moot fight, it's the Oni Warriors that come out ahead. Unless Panitom falls here, has Blink, has ult, I'm thinking he's all right.
Got to run to his team. That ends up being aggressive towards the enemy jungle, but we'll find that bit of safety there as both the Hunters walk through the Gold Fury pit. I have to ask when they do want to pick this up, because at this point, this gold lead continues to spiral a bit for the Oni Warriors, close to 5,000 or 6,000 here for the Order side. And once again, my focus goes towards the solo laners. You said just there, they have to take that fight because Haddix rotates over. And for all of the fight taking that they did, they don't get any kills. They have to full retreat. They use a couple of those valuable ultimates. And now maybe SoloOrTroll, after taking down that tier 1 tower, in a very valuable spot to look for that rotation himself.
Yeah, and the fight goes south for the Ravens because of the desynced initiation. Scream caught early, forced to retreat, would have been a great ultimate target for Ven after he transformed into Athena, but because he's on the way out, nobody's able to dunk in with him, and nothing comes of it. Oni Warriors attempting a bit more pressure on the left-hand side, but it's all a distraction. It's all about the Gold Fury, and it's already dead. Pyromancer grouping from the Highland Ravens. I wonder if the Oni Warriors can get there in time to defend it. Just a 2-man core rotating through, and the Ravens have already decided not to go for it.
This might be an ambush, though. Double dash forces the dash away from Pegon, and the jump will not find safety. Ultimate's in here, though, from the tanks, and a taunt for Venenu forces the relics out. Panitom rejoining the fray and is on a killing spree as he finds the killing blow onto Venenu. And a trade out, a 1-for-1, makes the space for the Pyromancer, and the Oni Warriors keep it up on the objectives.
Yeah, Warriors just playing much too quickly there. That's the classic response attempt from the Ravens. Gold Fury's down, we'll get the Pyromancer. Oops, not spawned just yet. At least able to take off Pegon on his rotation in. Good positioning from the Ravens to set up that ambush, but still a little bit too tanky. And that Athena ultimate once more crushes what would have been a double kill for the Highland Ravens. Ravens have just not prioritized this Athena. They're not putting a lot of respect on the pick and P's and B's, and the Oni Warriors are going to go towards it just about every opportunity they get. And that's not an Oni Warriors exclusive. That's the SPL at large. Highland Ravens maybe thinking that Nemesis would have been the answer towards it, but I haven't seen that just yet.
Pegon jumping in, looking for a little bit of damage on Scream. We've seen this pick quite a bit of the Ullr, seen it both, in the ADC in the mid lane and over in the solo lane for SOT specifically. Provides a bit of pressure, and I think pairs pretty well with this Athena. Typically, I would want, a standard mage to get that taunt follow-up, but I think you get a lot of the ability damage coming through from this Ullr, and Pegon in particular plays it very well.
He does. Been playing through a lot of pressure now. Hasn't got to the absolute strong point of Ullr's when he upgrades that starter, and all of a sudden those hail of arrows hitting like agony bombs. up a little bit more often, have a little bit more range. Until then, decent auto attack potential. Not often we see it will go towards Fail Not. A little bit of crit for him to play with. Let's see, does that force a spectral armor response from the Highland Ravens? We'll have to wait. And it might be a good long wait, considering gold's hard to come by if you're on the Chaos team. Oni Warriors suffering from success here, Frog. Not much for them to do on map right now because they'd already done it all. I don't really think we're going to see them group up and try and knock down a tier 2 tower, so we might just be waiting on either the Primal Fury spawn or any individual pick could immediately transition them in towards the Fire Giant. Massive power spikes for the Warriors already hit. I'm keeping my eyes on Panitom. This next item, significant. Get a little bit of percent penetration from that Typhon's Fang. That'll help out a lot against the quote-unquote tankier targets. Not exactly tanky targets for them to deal with, though, on the Ravens. I mean, pseudo-defense from Hurriwind. Had to go Magi's second slot. Haddix is kind of tanky, but mage stat tanky. Not exactly strong there either. It's hard to say, but I think I'm willing to go out on a limb and say it. Oni Warriors are in a really good spot.
Wow, that's a...
It's hard hitting.
Yeah, you feeling comfortable out on that limb? That's pretty...
It's precarious.
That's pretty dangerous.
I'll die on any hill.
Wow. Oni Warriors in a good spot. That's a myth quote. Don't take it from me. Certainly feeling themselves in this mid lane as SoloOrTroll, Genetics, Pegon grouped up here in the mid lane. I think a lot of their damage, though, looking for Panitom with a 4-level lead now in the jungle to really be the driver of this pressure. You saw out after Pegon got picked a little bit earlier, it was Panitom coming in, able to essentially, you know, get in there, just delete Venenu, which you might expect with a level 18 Maman on your team. But it's the Oni Warriors continuing the pressure, and a blink in from Scream. Pegon gets the ultimate from Athena, will find the safety on the blue buff, but Netrioid up against the transformation and will be taking down. A great kill from Venenu and looking to retreat. Now the 3-man taunt from Genetics takes down Venenu, and a 1-for-1 trade as the Oni Warriors looking for a little bit more.
Panitom went a bit crazy there, as does Pegon, jumping into that back line. Forces a response, but it's Netrioid who pays for the crimes. Highland Ravens now 4-stacked in their tier 2, praying that no more aggression comes their way.
Dash taunt in, double root there from the enemy team. Highland Ravens maybe looking to find safety under that tier 2 tower, daring the Oni Warriors to dive in to look for a little bit more, but they will not be baited into the overcommittal. Just the 1-for-1, and as Venenu comes to the respawn, Netrioid now respawn, but Scream has stepped too far forward and will dash away, takes Panitom with him for the time being, but SoloOrTroll, he burns the ultimate as well. It's the Oni Warriors with constant pressure here around the Fire Giant.
Scream sent back to base, Hurriwind sent back to base, a neutral objective on respawn. A simple formula for the Oni Warriors. No issues for them when they're the equation. Take the Pyromancer. Could potentially look towards that Fire Giant, but Netrioid not exactly in a healthy position. Needs to head back to base first, so won't be able to pull it out just yet. 2 Runic Bombs in play now for the Oni Warriors. That's 2,000 true damage once they move in towards a structure or an objective. Keep my eyes on the Ravens. That's significant grouping on the left-hand side. Perhaps concerned with an Oni Warriors Gold Fury pool, or maybe hoping that they could grab the Gold Fury while the Warriors are working on the Giant itself. Warriors, though, scattered to the winds, trying to split the map. Haven't quite made a decision on exactly where they want to be.
Primal Fury picked up here by Panitom. Looks like they will have the damage if uncontested. Scream, though, only seeing 2 here. May go in for the steal, at least able to stop them from doing it just by putting the ultimate onto Netrioid. We're the Oni Warriors trying to test the waters, see if they can get away with something for free. Game number 1, we saw a 15-minute Fire Giant. I'm not sure I would have expected that here in this game. The Oni Warriors didn't have the same type of lead at that point in the game. But now 20 minutes in, I mean, if they're just going to spend so much time up in the enemy jungle, wouldn't you expect them to have taken a Fire Giant or at least tried to push one by now? I'm surprised they're not trying to bait the enemy team in and instead just wanton looking for picks in the enemy jungle.
I think it speaks to the style of draft the Oni Warriors are playing. Every single one of them just about has great pick potential, decent CC from every individual member, so looking for those battles in the jungle makes sense to me. It also speaks to the strength of the Highland Ravens draft. It's just much better this time around. Would be difficult for the Oni Warriors to just completely disrespect the Ravens and pull the Fire Giant in their face. Finding a pick first might be the answer they're searching for. Haddix should have spotted out Panitom's rotation there. So the rest of the Highland Ravens now have an opportunity to move over towards that left side of the map. But if the Oni Warriors play fast, and they always do, there will be a response. Fire for gold trade, I'm sure they're happy with that.
Certainly looks like it will be the case here as Fire Giant taken down at 22 minutes. For the Oni Warriors, Highland Ravens, they get a Primal Fury under their belt, and they'll be feeling a little bit better about the damage they're doing the next time the Fire Giant rolls around. But right now, maybe concerned with the siege potential as these fights may start to shift, right? Tier 2 tower is where they're grouped up now, and Highland Ravens, they've got to make sure that they get their back timings off so that they're here to defend this Phoenix if they continue to push. And in fact, it looks like they will continue to push. Anhur back in now, Scream will be behind them. They may run into each other in the jungle, but I mean, what changes for these compositions around these siege fights?
Well, double Hunter draft for Oni Warriors means any time left alone with a tower or Phoenix will deal with it very quickly. Highland Ravens, on the other hand, non-standard mage out of mid. Ven's going to struggle a little bit more so to clear those waves, so a lot of that slack going to have to be picked up by Haddix. Decent no-play zone abilities there. Zapman with the shifting sands might make it a bit more difficult for the Oni Warriors to work their way in. But I tend to really favor teams on Siege that have Athena. I think she's one of the best on defense and offense, just simplifying your engagement. Dash taunt on repeat really is just that strong. We saw it in Game 1 from Panitom, where he systemically took apart the Highland Ravens one at a time, working through all their CC immunity. Genetics is going to have a much easier time doing that with tank stats, so Highland Ravens got to figure out a response to that. There's one of a few ways you can do it. Wait for first dash taunt, drop Nemesis ultimate, and say we need to kill Genetics now. And I think that's a decent avenue for them. This
rotation here, though. Scream alone here on the left side, trying to trade one out and does get close. But Panitom and the rest of the squad, Pegon, grabs the last hit onto Scream. And that's a 40-second pick. Wow, you've got the Fire Giant. Gotta be careful here, though, as they left two alone in the middle lane. Chase down from the Highland Ravens. They've got to force Genetics into the ultimate, but he will not fall. Has to return to base that low health bar with the Titans pushing, though. The Oni Warriors, they've got a power play with this man advantage.
Love the idea there from the Highland Ravens. There's so many people on left. We could force a fight now. And if it's anything but Athena, likely would have hit pay dirt, but that global presence, not just good to peel out for others, also for Genetics himself. Makes himself scarce, gets out of that situation, and the Highland Ravens actually use a pretty significant cooldown. Tycho Drum, only halfway back up. That's such a major part of the Ravens team fight.
Scream now rejoining the fray here as the Order Titan pushing down this Tier 2 tower. SoloOrTroll, he's the only one here. The rest of the Oni Warriors, they've tried to go to this right-hand side. Netrioid takes down Venenu, and they find the bird all the while.
That's good damage.
Zapman trades back, though, and Thoth grabs Scream in the mid lane as it turns into a 1v1, and all of a sudden, the Oni Warriors are looking for a little bit more. Zapman jumps into Thoth, and he'll find a double kill. That's 2 Phoenixes now down for the Oni Warriors, and 3 members in the gray screen looking for a little bit more, though, trying to ramp it back up, and they've got a Titan to help them out. All 5 members here strong, as Panitom the only one down, but the Titan will fall down, and the Oni Warriors up 2-0.
Look, I've seen it twice now where the Highland Ravens decide in the early game, we're going to try and play through solo, let's try and knock down SOT, we're going to gank them. And then both games now, they run into the brick wall that is SOT's got mitigations, Athena's got global presence, we can't jump on them. When we're on them, we just get taunted off. And if that's going to be your play, if you want to camp SOT, get Athena off the board. Bans are pretty decent at removing picks like that. So ban Athena, you can camp solo. If Athena's available, I don't think you can exactly play there. And then otherwise, there are large sweeping issues. The Oni Warriors are playing their own game. They're playing fast. It's this new objective-based Oni Warriors dominating the map. And the Ravens are just kind of waiting. I hope someone walks into my tower right now, I mean, I sure hope someone just like DCs or something. You got to play your own game. There needs to be a strategy to win. It's an issue I've seen with this team in the past where they're playing not to lose as opposed to playing to win.
Yeah, I mean, you have to imagine, though, if the enemy team were to walk under.
They win those for sure.
Yeah, they definitely win those, but that is not how you're going to beat the Oni Warriors. Maybe some draft changes, maybe some other adaptations on map. The Highland Ravens have to find an answer in this Game 3, or they're going to risk getting sent home. Stick around for the action. We'll be back after the break.
Well, it is a Game 2 win for the Oni Warriors in similarly dominant fashion to what we had in Game number 1. A couple things that we asked for from a change in Game 1 to Game 2 is fix up the draft a little bit. Felt like the Highland Ravens did a little bit of that, able to kind of change up, get away from the 4 magical. Now maybe the second thing that needs to work is still go back to the drafts a little bit, mostly because you got to get this Athena off of the Warriors team. It has been so powerful in the last couple of games for the Warriors.
Yeah, we're talking baby steps. First draft, glaring issues. They fixed them up for the second draft, and now we realize Athena is an issue. Get rid of it. And by starting off, taking first side is a good start. It allows you to now actually have the opportunity to either play the Athena or force them to ban it, which I would not be surprised in the slightest if the Warriors ban it. This character has shown a lot of prowess, the playmaking potential of it, the ability to pull beads, the global potential. There are so many strengths to this character. That is why she is getting banned. That's why she was banned all day today in the previous set. And now we start to see kind of reasons why she is very strong. And with a lot of these plays that you're able to make, you're able to kind of make extra daring plays when you're SoloOrTroll and when you're Panitom and you have this Athena as backup. I mean, you saw them playing into the enemy jungle because they have this fallback option.
And I think you called one in particular, which is SoloOrTroll, that the Oni Warriors are maybe getting so much extra leeway in the game because of. I mean, how many times in just these 2 games have we seen the Ravens try and commit to a dive onto SoloOrTroll and just come up empty-handed? Or they get the kill on SOT, but then they lose 1 or 2 immediately afterwards. The first gank in Game number 1 worked really well. They got the beads off them, they come back, they get the kill. But then SOT gets a bit of defense online, the Athena ult becomes available, and from that point forward, it just felt like SoloOrTroll was soaking up so much pressure on the solo side of the map that the rest of his team was just able to flourish across the rest of the board.
Now we've hammered it enough what we think of this Athena and what we think about for the rest of the comp. It's on the Ravens to kind of draft a comp that they think, and not to take away from the second draft that they had. I think the second game draft makes sense. I think is more just how strong this Warriors team's draft was. Like, look at this. Across the board, we're talking just like a blowout just in terms of what they were able to do comparatively to what the Ravens were able to do with their comp. It is ease of access. We talk about this all the time. How easy is your comp to play? The Warriors had such an easy comp. The Ravens on the other side, it was not easy to play. Yes, they got some picks here. Yes, they got some picks there. But for the most part, a lot of kills were hard to come by.
Yeah, this was, I think you put it best, ease of execution, simplicity in the playstyle more than anything for the Oni Warriors. And simplicity's just been winning SMITE. Big circles, nice easy giant AoEs to either pull people back via Athena taunt, dash in, nice big cone in front of you to try and pull people back in, divert some of that attention, or just big circles, long lines to be able to really hit these abilities. The E-Shell, I really love what we've seen out of SOT on this god, has really kind of cemented himself not just as a great E-Shell player, but maybe even now bringing that god into the limelight for that potential soul lane. I think you hit it best kind of jumping into this second game where she may not be that #1, maybe even even top 4 style of pick for the mages, but she's definitely found a place over in that lane. And while I don't know if you need to ban it necessarily, it is something that I think now a lot of teams have in the back of their mind going up against the Oni Warriors, thanks to SoloOrTroll. We'll see if that E-Shell comes back again here in game number 3 with the Ravens on that first pick side, as you alluded to earlier. We'll see if they get a chance to pick the Athena for themselves, or will the Oni Warriors just go ahead and ban that one out? Ravens going to keep up their bans of the Khepri. Still like to see the Khepri ban for the team, taking that one away from Genetics. It's one of his best picks to go to over the course of this entire year. But there's the adaptation, but maybe in a weird spot, the fact that it's the Ravens banning that one away.
Yeah, I agree. I think when you're playing this first side, you should force the second pick team to ban these OP picks. But the Ravens just throw away banning that Athena, pairing that with the Khepri ban. We have 3 Guardian bans already. Kind of the same situation in the first game, but there's no Athena pick available for the Ravens. And on top of that, Apwash ban, Naja ban. I mean, at least when you are taking this first side pick, you're having the value of getting this Chernobog unless the Warriors are banning it here. And if the Warriors ban Chernobog, I don't know what you're first picking that has enough value. I think there's a few characters that there's a lot of value with first picking. I think there's... Okay, Poseidon was one that maybe slipped my mind because I think that character has shown some strengths. But Bog is now available. Should be a pretty easy pick here. Lock in the Bog. Take your win from this first pick side and allow the Warriors to kind of pick into that.
It will be that Chernobog that you were talking about just a moment ago will go over to the Highland Ravens as a first pick, but immediate response is now take the Raijin for themselves on the side of the Warriors and the Maman Brigitte. So some flexibility for your mid, for your jungle, but I will say, while yesterday's performance left a little bit to be desired, I think Panitom's now figured out his groove on this pick. Looked great in it game number 2.
Agreed.
And those 1v1s he has taken early game against the Nemesis, really showing that God's early capabilities against that kind of God.
Yeah, I agree entirely. I think Panitom looks a lot more comfortable. I think he's finally starting to do things with that. And with the Ravens picks, the Anhur Morrigan Le Fay, it looks like we're going to have a Chernobog mid Zapman back on that Anhur. And I should state, I think Zapman is an exceptional Anhur player. But last game was not a very good Anhur performance, and I think even the previous set that they had, the Anhur was not something that I really liked Zapman on. I would almost prefer this Chernobog in Zapman's hand and get Venenu something else in mid lane. And in response, the Warriors lock in that Izanami, which is something Netrioid loves to do. He likes picking Izanami into this Anhur.
Yeah, this Izanami is pretty much exclusively a Netrioid style of pick, even really over the course of this entire year. That has just been Netrioid's kind of go-to God. Whenever, I guess during last phase, kind of when the Ullr run wasn't there, he'd go towards the Izanami a little bit over the course of the first phase. So has pretty much become synonymous with this player and this team for the Oni Warriors. Now what does this leave for the rest of the squad? Still need either your mid or your jungle or your solo, I guess. So you still need one of your other carry roles, and then you need your support. So already looking at what the Highland Ravens have drafted for themselves, the Chernobog, Anhur, the Morrigan Le Fay. Is there support that kind of comes to your mind right away that Genetics can maybe go towards to kind of round up this composition a bit?
For the Ravens or the Warriors?
For the Warriors. Anything
for Warriors,
Genetics to grab?
For the Warriors, I just think something that's a little bit... with these mage solos, I don't know how to say it any better than you need something in support that has engage. It is so hard to play around your comps when you're playing with an Aphrodite and your solo laner is also a Raijin. You just need something that has ease of access into the enemy's comp and can start fights. Even that Atlas has some semblance of engage, so something like that is fine. Ganesh is something that also, with the ultimate, has some potential there. But just anything that can start these fights out. These uber backline mage supports, I think a lot of the time, make the comp harder to play. So something like that for Genetics. For the picks and bans, the bans portion, finishing up with our final 4. Camazot's Rat for the Warriors, taking a big shot at Scream's Jungle God Pool. And on the opposite side, the Ravens betting out the Horus Amma. A little flex potential with the Amma. We've seen it on Panitom. We've seen it on Solo. Both of them have been happy to play it with the Warriors' next pick available. As you said, we have a little bit of flex potential here with that tier locked in. Assume it's got to go to Genetics.
We will wait to see what the last pick is, but I think you're right to allude to it. Now Genetics having gone towards that pick twice so far in just these last couple of weeks of competitive play. Once so far this weekend, and then once, I believe it was in that final week of SPL that he went towards this selection. But we'll see what ends up being the last selection for the Oni Warriors. See if that one does get locked in that way. Highland Ravens with a double Hunter and a Morrigan Le Fay. The carries are rounded out, so they need their support and their jungle. Having taken a look at the entire roster, it's going to be Ares, drafted by the Highland Ravens. Going to be great for the Izanami. Going to be really reliant on those beads to try and escape from there. Everybody else CC immune in the kit. but it feels more like anything that this Ares may be an answer to the tier if this one does end up being for genetics.
Yeah, I don't really mind the Ares support. I don't think he's a great, engage god, but I mean, that helps up with that engage. Thor's now a god that has very easy access, dive to the back line, can pull relics. Ares can punish those relics. I think a lot of this pressure and early and mid portion of the game is going to be on Netrioid because he picks this Izanami to win lane, but it's also going to be very easy for him to get ganked over in that duo lane. So a lot of pressure on Netrioid for this early portion. But I like this bottom 2 by the Ravens. I think this makes the most sense. I think this is their best draft so far today. I think the rest of them had clear weaknesses, but Ymir locked in, which means it's not tier support. Tier's most likely going solo. We're going to have a Ymir in support.
Do you think that tier pick was maybe originally going to genetics and then he sees the Ares drafted, kind of that counter matchup, at least in the lane, doesn't let genetics get to do what he wants to do? And so you think maybe that one was held as there as the both of us can play it, but it wants to be genetics, but now seeing it has kind of pushed him over towards this Ymir?
Yeah, and it's probably a pretty good matchup for both now. I think Ymir is one of the best gods you can play into Ares. I actually think when Ares was like the go-to support for a little bit before he caught those nerfs, Ymir was his best matchup. Ymir matches up so well into him. Wall, can freeze his flames. You slow him very easily. You trade ults very easily. And then at the end of the day, you're one of the few gods that can actually match him in lane. And then you look at the solo lane, Morrigan into tier. Tier's just going to be free farming over here. There's very little kill potential. But on the opposite side, you can kill this Morrigan. I mean, you're kind of relying on the Morrigan or the Maman to get some of that damage out. But you can pull beads pretty easily in this lane. You're knock immune, so the 2 for Morrigan's not going to matter all too much. And if you think about putting that tier in support, what would have happened, he would have not been able to play the game very much for the most early portions of the game.
So looking at the Highland Ravens, now down 2 games in a very important game 3 for them because they need to not only win this game, then they've got to win the next 2 after that if they want to qualify to Worlds from this event. So having to, first off, stop the Warriors now and then kind of continue the trend. What's the win condition for them in this game to try and slow down the pace and the momentum of the Warriors?
I think it's playing through duo. I think so far Zap has not had a great weekend. I think he has not played this Anhur as exceptional as you expect he would be. Usually he dominates lane a lot of the times, but he's just playing very passive, losing a lot of lanes, giving stuff up with this Anhur. And I think if you play through duo, if you kind of give Zap all this help that he can get, pull Netrioid's beads and then punish him, play for the enemy's purple buffs, I think Zap can be the win con for them, because I think on the opposite side, if you don't do that, I think this lane is just going to get ran by Net and ran by genetics, and there's going to be not much that the Ravens can do until lately in the game.
Yeah, Izanami Ymir, not a fun one to go into. That Frostbite passive from Ymir just gives him that extra bit of clear, but also just makes it so dangerous to try and box up into him. So, again, putting on the stakes here, the Highland Ravens, they've got to win this game, they've got to win the next 2, basically a full reverse sweep here in order to win out and qualify to Worlds from this. Oni Warriors 1 game away from punching their ticket to the SWC, and they'll guarantee themselves either 3rd or 4th seed, depending on their matchup tomorrow to see who ends up going there. It's them against the Jade Dragons for that 3rd, 4th seed. So if the Oni Warriors can get that win here, it's SWC for them, a nice easy coast for the remainder. For the Highland Ravens, they've got to be able to stop the momentum here. Can the Highland Ravens do it, or are the Warriors going to sweep out and make their way to the SWC? We'll find out in Game 3 with Frog and Mifflin.
Just 1 game away for the Warriors to make it to SWC, and they have to be feeling that pressure to win this game, or maybe lack of pressure to win this game. They've got 3 chances to do it. Oh no, the Highland Ravens, they've got to win this one. They've got to win the next 2. You've got Frog, you've got Mifflin, got Doug bringing us through the battleground. And I really thought we might see some spice with Maman locked in, as well as the tier which we've seen genetics in, and Ymir which we've seen in solo and in jungle and in metas past. I really thought we might see some spice there towards the end, but just a standard round out where you would expect these picks to go, although some fresh eyes on these picks, as we haven't seen a Ymir in a while.
Been a little bit for the Ymir, been a good long while on tier solo. You know, the Oni Warriors, they always want to do something a little bit off the beaten path, and I like what they've got for themselves here. A team fight composition that has clear identity. It's about displacement, catching out individual targets. I imagine Haddix in particular going to struggle a good deal once that 5-on-5 starts up. Genetics has been hailed as the wall god's guy. Did it with Anhur. He's done it with Thor. He's done it with Ymir. And I imagine, even though it's been a little while, he's still got it on the Ymir. But I agree with Bobby on the desk. I really do like what the Highland Ravens have drafted for themselves here. Best look at a composition so far this set. And best look at shutting down some of the strengths of the Oni Warriors. Getting them off that Athena was steps 1 through 5 on my 6-part plan. So, good stuff to the Highland Ravens. Even getting a little bit of global presence themselves. I love that Chernobog and how it's going to operate against maybe some of the lesser mobile targets on the Oni Warriors. One of the weaknesses of Ymir has always been his propensity to either absolutely dominate or be dominated. Lacking mobility, could be that Ven tries to put the kibosh to genetics early.
But I have to ask, on the 6-part plan, steps 1 through 5 is ban Athena. What's step 6?
Profit.
Got it. No, that makes a ton of sense. I should have put that together. Pressure here in the mid lane a little bit for Venenu and Scream. Thought we might see this Raijin head back towards solo when it was picked up early on in the draft. Instead, it will head towards this middle lane. And it has, I mean, Pegon has been one of the mid laners more willing to pick up that Raijin in the mid lane. Up against this Chernobog, typically you imagine the hunters of the mid lane getting a little bit more pressure, but maybe it's Oni Warriors. They're trying to find an early first blood of Venenu with no dash available. Pegon grabs the first blood. They're looking for more as well. Scream forced to teleport away, but the Oni Warriors on the board first.
Yeah, Ven was real worried about that instant stun coming from Maman Brigitte. Here's the thing. Maman Brigitte don't do that. She continues to blow smoke in your face forever. Hurriwind in a little bit of trouble here. Body blocks from Netrioid, no good, but Panty might have the chase.
Trying to slow him down, needs the stun. Not in range, though. And Hurriwind will find safety under that tier 1 tower. But Panitom makes it over for the shield buff. And so you get a little bit of pressure in that mid lane off first blood, a little bit of pressure on the left side of the map as well. And you heard Bobby on the desk. Maybe the Highland Ravens would be looking to change up their game plan. And instead of looking for these picks onto SoloOrTroll, you try and play through a duo. And I think that maybe in large part due to the tier. Now, he's not on a mage. He's that much harder to gank on this tier.
Yeah, but there isn't an Athena, so it is that much easier to gank onto the tier. SOT already receiving a bit of that pressure, forces the beads and loses his life. Scream makes an early rotation over, but it's Haddix who benefits with the kill. Sure, a little bit tankier, but Warriors aren't picked a whole lot right now, and for good reason. Tend to struggle a bit in the current meta. But if you're going to put that much attention on on right, left side, a bit exposed. And Genetics and Co. able to strip away the purple.
Haddix has to be careful. He doesn't take too much poke here. Gets slowed down and knocked to half HP. Panitom was ready to come over if the engage continued and may have left the engagement a little bit too early as Netrioid hiding around these camps. Panitom a little bit low on the health bar. Pegon now ready to rotate over. I think the Highland Ravens think better of it as they back off, will not try for the double invade across the map. But that's really on me for Sod. I mean, I caster's curse it a little bit. They go right over and focus him out. But I mean, maybe that's even more reason to put the focus on here. You get an early kill onto SoloOrTroll, and now that it's not mage versus mage, you have the benefits of if one of them gets ahead, you kind of want it to be this mage, some power for this Morrigan Le Fay if you're getting ahead and you're rotating a little bit earlier.
That, and it's the physical magical damage split. Jungle and Solo. Wow. Flying in is Ven. Genetics in trouble.
Looking for the damage and will find it. Hurriwind grabs the second kill for the squad. That's the power of the Chernobog, this global pressure, and they find another pick onto the dual lane.
Now, going to be a little while until Genetics takes over to level 5. So if Hurry beats him there, going to be an opportunity, although brief, where he could jump on him.
Wow, Haddix under some pressure this time, and they flipped the script. Now, not even waiting for the buff spawns. The Ravens get a kill on the duo side, and the Oni Warriors say, oh, okay, we know you're not on solo side, so we'll engage onto Haddix. And it's shutdowns across the board. All the while, Oni Warriors, maybe in part due to that first blood, they're holding on to a small gold lead.
Yeah, able to control the mid camps relatively well, have traded out 1 or 2 buffs for only the 1 invades that the Highland Ravens have been able to find. So things starting to look good across the board. Even Zapman a little bit struggling to find some of that farm. I believe we saw 1, maybe 1.5 waves completely frozen out from him. So going to be a little bit until the Highland Ravens feel confident in their ability to fight back in. But power spikes have been hit across the board. I'm keeping my eyes on Scream. always a playmaker, could definitely do it on the Thor.
They're looking for Haddix right now. Beads get forced and a blink in early from SoloOrTroll. Maybe a couple taunt spams come through there as Haddix does survive the attempted gank. It's right around the time of these blue buff spawns as well, waiting for the right period of time here as Scream joins the fray. Makes it a 2v2 for the time being. They're still going to have to wait another 10 seconds or so for this blue buff to spawn, and they don't have to wait that long to burn the beads off of Scream. A little bit more damage was needed. They will not find it though, and Scream will find the ultimate and escape under that tier 1 tower. But with a 4-man, 3-man rotation towards this blue buff, I think Haddix has lost all hope of getting it. Meanwhile, fight on the left-hand side, and Netrioid, he's running the wrong way.
Yeah, he's going to try and grab as much farm as he can. Unfortunately, only able to catch up to the melee minions, and does not quite have the damage even with Dark Portal to knock those down. So won't get any of that wave, and in fact, softens it up a bit, the tower. Going to take out those melees and maybe lose out on the archers too. Unfortunate play for Netrioid when his team's playing on right. No one to help him out on left. But this is again what the Oni Warriors do so well. They make these rotations over towards right when they know there's something to collect. Blue buff taken away, red buff taken away, speed buff I believe as well. Perhaps stripped there, and Genetics isn't done.
He's still here around this totem camp, trying to wait for the perfect time. Little bit off the mark with the wall, and will not time the ice carpet correctly. But all that being said, I mean, that's just pressure for Scream. Scream, every little bit of time counts there. You got to take a little bit more time to make sure you secure that. You also lose a couple of buffs in that deep right side jungle.
Hard.
And you keep hitting hard as you trade this damage back and forth in the mid lane here. Scream, one of the biggest problems there in game number 2 was this level deficit that he had. I think it was 3 or 4 levels at a period of time for Panitom on this Maman. So Scream picking up this Thor, last pick for this, potentially to help out their engage a little bit. He's got to be getting active, and so far he has been, but maybe he has to look to find a little bit of purchase now that he's ticked over to level 5 and well past that now. As Genetics gets pulled in, Hurriwind, maybe the one actually under pressure, didn't expect the damage turnaround, and he will be the one sent to the gray screen. All the while, Zapman takes down Panitom with the help, and you get another 1-for-1.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. Looked to me like Hurriwind was probably communicating with Scream, hey, I can find a pool here. They're likely going to step up, try and take the fight. Pegon up, down!
Oh my goodness, able to dash out the damage, but will fall down. Genetics trying to stay alive and will dodge out a couple of auto attacks. Look for Netrioid. Maybe if they stick around a little bit too long on the rotation. Venenu able to survive. And all the while, Pegon gets the beads burned, has to up down to cancel the damage, but loses life.
Does. Good dive there from the Highland Ravens. Ven finding his opportunity once more. And Scream getting active on map. SOT has his kit essentially completely removed by those chains. Can't use the Fearless. So Haddix able to pull that blue buff to relative safety. But Zot's hanging around. I don't really think he can do a whole lot here. Maybe he can threaten the blue buff into tower, but maybe he's just baited himself.
Yeah, Haddix is almost just holding the blue buff, not hitting it there, just to keep Zot standing around and make him think that he might be able to get in there. You will make it out to safety, though. Makes a little bit of room as well for Panitom, who I believe stole that camp in the back once again, stole the red buff away as well, it looks like. So all the while, they're using this macro play, stealing away a little bit of farm. For that, though, they get a couple of level deficits, couple level leads across the map. And thus far, the Highland Ravens looking the best we've seen them so far this set, trying to match the action. And we haven't gotten a full-on scuffle quite yet, but that may change just here. And Villadon channeled, perhaps looking for Genetics. Well, we'll just find the camp, though, and Scream ultimately decides against it. But Hurriwind, he might be caught out a little bit. Gets a 3-man ultimate, but the damage is there on the follow-up, and once again, he will be the one to fall.
Yeah, once Scream utilizes that dunk, and you see it on the Oni Warriors, they say, okay, well, no longer is that global presence a threat to us. We can go ahead and force the fight. Zapman similarly trying to force a fight here.
Wow, trying to go for the one-on-one against Panitom. Great wall, though, will slow him down. And Zapman forced to jump away. Thought he might have gotten punished there for the transgressions, but not able to take down Panitom. Good peel will keep him alive. Looking for the aggression is Zapman, though, having maybe a bit more confident game on this Anhur.
Yeah, I like what I'm seeing from Zapman, playing with that confidence, jumping in, leaping, playing aggressive, knowing his team's right at his back. He'll have that safety to fall back towards if it doesn't work out. That said, great individual plays from the Oni Warriors, what makes them escape. Panitom utilizing his ultimate to immune the stun from Scream. Genetics wall placement stops both Scream and Zapman from stepping forward. The Warriors no stranger from a reactive play style and a double freeze.
Double freeze, Zapman under pressure.
Oh my
Great
God.
wall will prevent the jump. Zapman can't make it over the wall. And the Panitom rotation grabs him another kill onto that Anhur. It's been back and forth here, but you're matching the kills at 11 minutes in. Scream looking to change that. Off the mark with the ultimate, though. Sot jukes the other way.
That's
just
not
being
good.
a nuisance in the enemy jungle all the while. His team's on the Gold Fury.
Yeah, Sot threatening. Yeah, well, maybe my boys are coming for this blue buff. You better be ready. Unfortunately, though, the Highland Ravens fall prey to the bait. SOT, I don't think he wins this one 2v1.
Looking for it, though. 1v2. And the
Yeah, what?
up down on the ultimate, just ready to engage if he gets the opportunity. And he's tanky enough to at least be asking the question, especially with Pegon around the corner, forces the beads from Scream.
He's gotta be
and now
dead.
the punish has to come through. Venenu looking for the damage, will get bailed out for a second, but a trade, and Pegon's able to grab Haddix through the
Has full
chaos.
kit.
Panitom look for the rotation. Pegon
my
doesn't
God.
even need it, and looking for one more, but Van won't have it. A triple kill for Pegon. A huge play for the mid laner of the Warriors.
Pegon is just built different. Once I realized after Aegis he had Raijin available and Scream stacks up with Haddix, that damage just too much to deal with, but unsung hero SOT sacrifices his life so that Pegon can look good. Makes a lot of that happen himself and burns the beads off a Scream. Tough stuff, man, for the Highland Ravens. SOT is simply styling on him there. Just gets way too much value on what was a ill-advised tier bit of aggression.
Genetics maybe under some pressure. This will be the first time, though, the beacon will go towards the Highland Ravens, at least if the Oni Warriors don't want to step up. Genetics has to be a little bit careful, but anywhere the Oni Warriors can take a fight, feels like they want to take a fight at this point.
My God.
A huge Lawbringer over the wall, and Zapman somehow makes it to safety. Hurriwind pulls back one, but SoloOrTroll not feeling too worse for wear. And it's 5 strong for a second there in the mid lane. Oni Warriors, they lose out on the beacon. They'll take that tier 1 tower, though.
Panitom back to his 3-level lead shenanigans. Scream struggling to keep up with the Maman Brigitte as the rest of the Oni Warriors push down to tier 1, consider a tier 2, and think better of it. Only 13.5 minutes in. That'd be a dangerous call to make. Nearly connects that fear. Does Haddix. Instead, it's Panitom who makes himself scarce. There is still potential, though, for the Highland Ravens to find their plays. I want to see more of this global presence utilized. We're seeing a lot of Scream trying to ult people in the jungle. I'm going to catch this one guy. Maybe if I just started at my own red buff, you know, the Warriors are playing so aggressive, someone's going to be coming over here. Just has not had that opportunity. I want to see Scream and Ven working together to gank a side lane. Netrioid's playing safe for the most part. I take it back. It's not going to work either. Nice try, Scream. Back to the drawing board for you and me both. Maybe you can do it to SOT. Nope, that guy's unkillable. Keep doing it to Netrioid. Maybe have Ven nearby.
Just got to find a window in on one of these picks. You're punishing Netrioid pretty heavily early on, and sure enough, he's lost that tier 1 tower early in this game, so that's where the Highland Ravens have found their pressure. But with this objective spawn, 14:30, the Pyromancer up on map. Have to be a little bit careful as, once again, Highland Ravens, best spot they've been in all set. So sure enough, they are going to use it to try and contest this objective. Genetics shoved up against the wall, but the wall from himself will prevent a little bit of that damage.
Nice try.
Ultimate's traded out, though, for the supports, and Sot over the wall! 4-man Lawless will take down Zapman as they're trying to find the damage. and they will do so. Zapman taking down Pegon. Low and worse for wear. Venenu finds the 1v1 trade as Thoth blinks back in, and Venenu CC down and looking to find the last bit of damage, but will survive. And the fight, it's scrappy, but the Oni Warriors still looking for more, and who else but Thoth grabs the kill onto Screammmmm. Hurriwind, they're still looking for more damage, and the Oni Warriors maybe have to back off now.
Thoth on the retreat. He's got Ven on his heels, slowed by the Shadow Demon. The Oni Warriors won't be able to defend this tier 1 tower. Panitom, Genetics, both too low. An overstay from the Warriors will cost them a tier 1, but all the while, you might be wondering, where's Netrioid? Where was he at? He was pushing down left, so no towers remaining there. Puts even more cold in the pocket of the Oni Warriors. You know, even when they lose out on lives, winning out on map state. Highland Ravens reeling from this hyper-aggressive playstyle. SOT, of course, deserves every bit of praise we can throw towards them. Take a look back at it. It's a 4-man right over the wall. Wow. Separates the entire team fight. Secures the Pyromancer as well for the Warriors, who pick it up immediately afterward and just keeps that aggression rolling. There needs to be an answer to this tier, and I'm just not exactly sure what it is besides get both hunters and pray that they've hit every single shot.
Man, I think if this kind of value was guaranteed from the tier pick, maybe you would see it picked over some of these mage solos more often, but this is just damage here. Screammmmm, he's looking for the disengage. Haddix does not have the retreat button that Screammmmm does, so he will fall on that right-hand side. And we've reached 16 minutes, Mifflin, and for the Oni Warriors, that means a Fire Giant attempt. As we look to pick up the objective here, Highland Ravens nowhere in the vicinity. They're not willing to step up to this one, it looks like, so it'll be another primary objective, biggest one off the map for the Oni Warriors.
Easy pickup. Highland Ravens need to find something in the interim. Killing SOT would be massive, but I'm not sure they have it in them.
Ultimate.
Oh, they got him. They got him.
They do have Hurriwind on the other side. Do they have him, though? They pull him back, and he gets the heal.
They have to have him.
They have to have him, dude. You have to chase down Thoth. And they will, with 4 people and all of the abilities in the world, they find the kill onto SoloOrTroll on a tier 2 tower to add to the tally. But still, 4 members strong with Fire Giant here for the Warriors.
And their siege potential is decent. Better still if they could find a pick first. Screammmmm in some trouble. Forced to use the beads, but is it Zapman that's gonna die?
Ultimate here. Panitom dashes in, looking for the retreat. Perhaps the re-engage from his team as Pegon is under pressure, but he turns it around, and a great wall traps Venenu in the Ymir wall. Netrioid there to help out, and once again, Pegon is on a mission and survives against 2. A double kill for the Oni Warriors as they continue the pressure.
Genetics' walls are just different. I mean, it's one thing to just separate the fight. It's another to block Chernobog's dash and just keep him there, and then early cancel the wall to knock him out of it and make sure the rest of the boys can kill him. I mean, that is just heads-up play through and through. Screammmmm tries his best to make something from nothing. Loses his life because Pegon had already pre-ultimated. Went into the Taiko drums for the CC immunity. Tough stuff, man. Panitom wins out on his one. Zapman loses both beads and Aegis, so what's he got left in the tank? Desert Fury for CC immunity, but you kind of want that for the fight. The Oni Warriors just can do no wrong right now. They are on a warpath up against the Highland Ravens. Only one tier 2 tower still standing, and for how long, really?
Oni Warriors, dominant state of the game for the Chaos side. 6,000 gold ahead and major experience leads. I think especially we look back towards that jungle roll once again. 3-level lead for Panitom on this Maman. And he's not necessarily even the one doing the most in these fights. It's every member of the Oni Warriors contributing here. Netrioid even here just farming on this right-hand side to still take down the Pyromancer. And now, only a minute and a half left on this Fire Giant power play. Have to imagine that they could push down that tier 2 tower. I think if they wanted to take everything, but with how willing they've been to be in the enemy jungle, regardless of if they have Fire Giant or not, I mean, I think I'm happy with them just looking for picks regardless. So far, a small grouping on the left-hand side of the map, but with this Gold Fury spawning and still waiting for the Fire Giant, it seems like they may wait for another round of objectives.
Standard MO for the Oni Warriors is generally have that Fire Giant wear off, group up, utilize the last remnants of it to knock down the Gold Fury, and then as they wait for Fire Giant to respawn, they usually try and knock down a tier 2 tower on the opposite side of the map. SOT steps far, far forward, doesn't have ultimate, and surrounded.
Dangerous Scream, though. He's off the mark with his own dunk, and Netrioid has to
He's coming
find
back.
the escape, but he's coming right back into the rest of the team, and Zapman finds the ADC. Look on the backside, though, Zapman will get traded out, and another kill for the Highland Ravens, a 2 for 2 thus far, as the rest of the team is here to help. Highland Ravens on the retreat, as Hurriwind will fall as well. A 3 for 2, as it took a minute for the Warriors to join, but they do come in to help.
Trading anybody is just good for the Ravens, though, who are in much more desperate need of gold. Unless the Oni Warriors get to knock down a Phoenix here. Showing themselves on wave. Haddix takes notice, heads back to base. Scream likely needed here. I'm not sure Haddix can do it on his own.
I don't know if he has the defense. They've got a wave coming in, but damage onto Haddix to start things off. Panitom, no poly here, just the defense item, but he's just hitting the Phoenix. Nobody's trying to stop him. Scream goes up, but nobody has slowed this damage down, and so they will get that left-hand bird. Genetics will trade his life for it, and Pegon, he might fall down as well. Almost takes one with him. Panitom, he's got to be careful. Even if this is the trade, though, as Panitom will make his way out of there, so it's 2 for left bird.
I mean, I love the idea. Need to deal with Pegon early on in that fight. The Highland Ravens stay focused on that. Haddix, though, not the most damage in the build just yet. Really desperately needs to finish that Typhon's Fang before he's going to be doing the most. But the Ravens do knock down Pegon and Genetics eventually. And considering the timing of that Fire Giant, if they play fast enough, might be able to strip it away from the Warriors. This would more so extend the game rather than swing it in favor of the Ravens, but SOT giving me a bit of confidence in the Warriors here.
We've seen a 4-man Lawbringer already.
So
this
smart.
game in Zot, he's ready to set it up again. Slows down Zapman and looking for the disruption here. Up, down with the stun, and the Fire Giant gets slow. Zapman finds SoloOrTroll, but they've got to find the secure, and they do. Fire Giant down for the Highland
Scream's
Ravens, and Scream up into the air, just looking for the retreat. The fight will not continue, but objective for the Ravens.
SOT makes a decision. It's not a steal attempt. I'm just trying to slow them down, and nearly does enough. If he buys another 2-3 seconds, the rest of the Oni Warriors are there in numbers, and the Highland Ravens would not have been guaranteed to grab the objective for themselves. Instead, are able to grab it, maintain all 5, and disengage. The Oni Warriors get to make a decision now. Are they far enough ahead that they're willing to siege even in spite of the 5-man Fire Giant of the Ravens? And I don't believe that's the case. Instead, slow things down. Ravens doing a good job, buying themselves a time, putting a second lease on this game. But what can they do with Fire Giant while they've got it? I think with map state as it is, you essentially, the decision has been made for you. You have to play through the left lane, push out those enhanced minion waves, maybe pressure a Phoenix. You can do like a 4-1. Someone can threaten the tier 2 in mid. Or the Ravens play it slow and just thank the heavens that they have time to farm up a bit more.
It's an interesting grouping just in terms of map state. Thought nobody was going to head back to deal with those fire minions, but it will be Scream heading back to base, and you'd think they would send him or maybe somebody else, maybe perhaps the Chernobog, over towards that left lane to ensure that they can keep clearing those minion waves out. But still have a tier 1 tower to clear in the right lane, still 2 tier 2 towers on the map that the Highland Ravens would look to take down. And it might just be the engage from the Warriors instead. Hurriwind caught too far up, may lead to a big ultimate though. Pegon finds the kill onto the support, and it's the re-engage here for the Ravens. Scream takes one down, trades Pegon, but Zot in the back takes down Zapman, and it's the continuation, the push forward from the Oni Warriors. It's Haddix low on the health bar and will not survive. Back to the Phoenix. Venenu and Scream, the only two left alive here, but the low health bars from the Warriors. And Scream, he takes one down, a 3 versus 2 into the Phoenix.
SOT still nearby, has to play safe here. Wall hammer, real threatening. Scream, healthy, hammer forward, wall off the mark. Netrioid escapes into the jungle, but has Scream done too much?
Panitom looking for the trade back and gets the combo, but the Aegis is beautiful and slows things down for the time being. SoloOrTroll has to be careful here. The CC and the slowdown comes through. It's almost enough, but it will not be enough to prevent him from the jump. Hurriwind trying to chase a little bit throughout the jungle, but that double heal coming through. They might commit for this, up into the air and dunk down. They'll find the delayed kill on the side.
Yeah, Scream, nice global usage there to secure the kill. Desyncs SOT with the rest of the team too, but not a whole lot that the Highland Ravens can do at this time. Fire Giant stripped away only on 2 members now. The Oni Warriors, as far as I'm concerned, get way more and get a way better team fight than they should have, considering the Highland Ravens had Fire Giant on all 5 and the fight was in neutral territory and it was telegraphed. The Oni Warriors simply walk them down. But walls from Genetics separating the engagement, Panitom target selection, and SOT legacy game on the tier all would swing that in favor of the Oni Warriors. That said, Map State in a much better position now for this next round of Fire Giant. Left side bird back and available. No more enhanced minion waves going down the left. And a little bit of time for it to regenerate some HP. Oni Warriors opportunity though, if they want to, group up, get aggressive, try and knock down the Highland Ravens Titan as it starts to move itself down the right side of the map. And based on timing, might be able to have their own Titan start to pressure that right side while Fire Giant's available. Depends though. Highland Ravens still certainly in it. 3,000 gold doesn't mean as much now as it did 20 minutes ago. So, ability for the Ravens to meet the Oni Warriors on even grounds.
I mean, we used to think of the Oni Fury, still do a bit. You get the Oni Fury, have those waves pushing down while you take an objective. This Titan pushing down the right-hand side might be just a more potent version of it. Has the Titans unleash here, just 30 seconds or so away from this Fire Giant. Not enhanced quite yet, have to peak over 30 minutes, so if there's an elongated dance, perhaps you start to ask this question. But the Oni Warriors looking for the engage. Let's go to a listening with the Warriors.
Chill. Don't group.
Let's show.
Throw one.
Block frozen. Block. Prison block here. Block. Aegis.
He's one. Anhur no beat behind Thor 1 HP. They're 1 HP guys.
You play right.
Try to get out.
Walk away. I have a wall in 2, so. Where's that at least?
Third.
I blink.
You're fine, keep running. You're fine, keep running. They cannot do fire. So just wasting a lot of time here.
God, Ares is so cringe. Yeah, you need to win.
Saw doing what he can to delay the team fight, but a Highland Ravens fight win. They might try to take the Fire Giant.
Yeah, Scream finds a lot of value with some of those hammers in the team fight, separates the engagement, connects with priority targets. Panitom goes down real early, but the fact that the Highland Ravens could jump on a Pegon first was the most important. Fire Giant down to a quarter. Genetics got a lot of work to do.
Wants to slow this one down, and Zapman did hop off the DPS for a second. Gotta think Pegon, he's right around the corner. You're giving him time to bring himself to the Fire Giant. Genetics hasn't even fallen low, and Zapman loses his life. They try to take the pick onto Genetics, and they hop off of Fire Giant instead, and the Ravens, they lose their chance.
I can't imagine what's going through the Highland Ravens' mind there when they decide to jump onto Genetics. Genetics is not a threat of steel. Even a full-channeled Ymir ultimate, not that he would have even had the opportunity to do so, it's not exactly the most threatening thing on the planet. So I think worthwhile for the Highland Ravens to coin toss the objective, weighted coin toss. It's not even fair to call it a coin toss when it's just a full defense Ymir in front of you. But in deciding to jump onto Genetics, buys time for Pegon to rotate through. Zapman over aggressive positioning makes it an easy Taiko drum target. Now it's the Oni Warriors with significant advantage going in towards the Fire Giant. 10 seconds left on Zapman's respawn, and it takes about 10 to 15 seconds to walk to the Fire Giant pit. But the Warriors, they want the fight first.
Blink in from Sot, looking for Venenu. Won't find the Fearless, though. They're looking to double down on the pick that they already have. Zapman has rejoined the fray, the land of the living, and will make his way back towards his team, but still relics down for this Anhur, and into the air goes Scream, looking for the dunk, and won't find purchase onto anybody as the fight balances on a knife's edge.
Keep your eyes on Panitom. Going for the flank here. Pegon over the wall. Haddix taking some damage.
Looking for the damage, and Genetics finds the freeze, but a great wall locks in Hurriwind, and Sot keeping 3 out of the fight, and will live through it for just a little bit longer. He makes the time, though, and the duo lane for the Ravens will fall. A 4 versus 3 now on the left-hand side, and Panitom looking for more. Pegon finds 1, a double kill for the jungler, and only 1 member remaining. It's Haddix, alive for the Highland Ravens, but if they want to end this game, they have to get through him.
No runic bombs in play, so need to collect the wave first. 30 seconds on nearest respawn. Hurry, up in 20 now. I don't think the Oni Warriors can end, but they can certainly break the base. Mid-Phoenix goes quickly. 15 seconds left now on Hurriwind, but Genetics too low to stick around. And the Oni Warriors once more play a team fight just perfectly. The disengage on time with Scream's ultimate. Don't even go back towards the Fire Giant. It's just back up, make sure you're not getting dunked, okay, reinitiate. Pegon over the wall, creates space, distracts from Panitom going through the lane, and then from there finds purchase onto priority targets. Ven, Scream, Zap, struggle to survive afterward. And then good luck retreating through lane up against a Ymir pick, especially a Ymir pick that has picked up some movement speed. He's going to catch up to you, throw the wall right behind you, and keep it easy. Take an eye toward those relics. Highland Ravens haven't got a whole lot left in the tank to play with here.
Fire Giant picked up here, down to half HP. If they want to step up, it would be a miracle steal that they would need to look for. They won't even have the time. Meanwhile, though, the relic's down
dead.
for Scream, and he is gone off the map. So they find EFG, and they find a pick to start. They've got the middle Phoenix already down. They're looking to push for more.
Yeah, collect the minion wave. Highland Ravens gotta buy 50 seconds now for Scream to get back. Warriors keeping pressure on 2 fronts.
Trying to push down this right side Phoenix, and it will fall in just a couple of autos. They're looking for a fight. Let's go to a listen-in with the Oni Warriors. They're going to try to end this game.
Stand no. Can I just take a little bit? I get it. Like one time, maybe.
Yeah, we can definitely end. I have the build, man. I have the build.
Let me get the time on my here.
I have 110. I got their blinks.
They're horrific. Look on the boys.
I'm finishing.
Sure. Time's low.
Woo!
Whoa! Trophy!
What a play! Whoa!
Incredible hype coming from the Oni Warriors there. They take the game, and in a dominant fashion, they managed to push it down. A close one there for the Highland Ravens. It took them a couple of games to maybe play the Oni Warriors to where they were hoping to in that set, but ultimately a little bit too strong, and the Oni Warriors sweep it 3-0.
And it's the Oni Warriors' objective-based play style that we'd seen all weekend. Looks incredible here, but this time around I feel like it's really a lot of PvP and a lot of individual plays. That reminded me a bit of how Phase 1 Oni Warriors used to be. SOT running at you in the back line with zero regard for whatever you're doing or his own life. Pegon jumping over walls. Panitom finally starting to look a little bit more comfortable in that Maman Brigitte. And when all those things start to line up, when everybody's playing comfort picks, everybody's aggressive, feels good, well, the Oni Warriors look real good.
The Oni Warriors with that 3-0 sweep headed straight to SWC, guaranteed Seed 3 or Seed 4. I'll have to find out tomorrow in the matchup. Highland Ravens, they're sent packing, not done quite yet. They'll have the group stages in January to fight through, but a dominant matchup coming through from them. Game 1 almost comes through in 18 minutes, and then just sub 30 for Game 1 in Game 2. And if you're the Oni Warriors, you're looking ahead towards Worlds. That's got to feel good to come through with a clean sweep after the loss yesterday. That'll do it for me and Mifflin on the cast. We'll throw it back to J-Mac and Inbound on the desk.
That's right. The Oni Warriors sweep it out 3-0 to qualify to the SWC, your fourth and final team from this event to qualify to the World Championships. Now joining the Jade Dragons, Atlantis Leviathans, and Styx Ferryman. Again, we're going to see exactly what the seedings are tomorrow when those matchups do get played through. But this just clean stuff from the Oni Warriors. A bit back and forth, more so in this game than in the previous two. A really strong draft from the Ravens allows them to really be able to sit down and continuously box up into enemy opposition. But I just got to say, the front line of this game just felt unstoppable for the Oni Warriors. Genetics on the Amir with the wall placements, the one to catch Netrioids, or to catch the Venenu's dash is who it was, playing on the Chernobog, and then cancel it right away just to squash any hopes of being able to escape that team fight. And then Sot's 4-man ultimate around the Pyromancer to really kick things off. This Oni Warriors squad really stepped up in Game 3.
Yeah, that definitely reminded you of the Phase 1 Warriors a lot more than this Phase 2 Warriors. Less calculated, more, let's just fight as many times as we can, win as many fights as possible, show them that we're just better than them. And it was, I mean, the tier, the Amir, both of them really popping off. Pegon on the Raijin dashing in a bunch. I mean, everyone top to bottom on this Warriors team was happy to take fights and was happy to win a lot of them also. But with the Ravens, I think there is stuff to take from this third game. I think Game 1 and Game 2, you put behind you, but Game 3, there is things you can take from it. And I think now you've got a little bit of time. You can start working on P's and B's, scrims, what you want to be playing, and going back and just kind of trying to find what you want to run, what your meta is going to be for this Worlds and this 10.13 patch. And I think that's where they need to start. I think that their picks and bans this weekend probably looked the weakest across the board, and I think a lot of the other people, a lot of the other players had an idea of the meta, and I think theirs was a lot weaker.
Really love what we saw. The Oni Warriors in this set, and again, I think you're right to say this third game much better out of the Highland Ravens, but still a little bit of time to kind of develop exactly what strats they want to take come SWC time, because it will be a couple months before we see these guys actually play up against each other. First week of January will be the last chance qualifier, the group stages, where we have the top 4 teams from the SCC, 2 from NA, 2 from EU, along with the 2 SPL teams that didn't qualify, that being the Gladiators and the Hounds, at least in towards this playoffs, and then now our 2 teams that didn't make it through. And this one's Camelot Kings and Highland Ravens. We'll see them in a little bit further time here. But for the Oni Warriors, a big win for them today to find their 3-0, get themselves at least that guaranteed 3rd or 4th seed, depending on how their matchup goes tomorrow, and just be able to kind of take a bit of a weight off the shoulder, now knowing that they have made it to the SMITE World Championship. So we got the man himself, the mid laner, Pegon, standing by from the Oni Warriors for our post-game interview.
Pegon, congratulations on the win. With that win, you guys secure the 3-0 sweep, secure your ticket to SWC, and that's the first question. I mean, how does it feel to be going back to Worlds?
I mean, we're definitely super happy. It's a little disappointing we can't play for first seed, but everybody's definitely happy to go back to Worlds.
I mean, you guys had pretty high energy in the booth there, and a couple of incredible individual plays. I think it was really fun to watch that set. What was the energy like, I think, throughout the set? You got like a 4-man Lawbringer, you with that triple kill over in the Soul Lane. Are you guys just pumping each other up and feeling good throughout?
Yeah, we were just super confident we are going to win that game, and like everybody just wanted to go for their own plays, make some cool stuff happen.
No, I mean, Mifflin said it looked like the Oni Warriors of past. You guys just kind of playing individually. I got to ask about the matchup tomorrow, right? You're playing for Seed 3 or Seed 4 up against the Dragons. How you feeling going into that matchup up against the Dragons?
Easy 3-0.
Easy 3-0, says Pegon. Well, thank you once again. Congrats on your win here going to SWC. We'll throw it back to the desk.
Gotta have a little bit of confidence going up into your future matchups, and Pegon calls it. He's saying a 3-0, not just that, an easy 3-0 tomorrow for his seeding match up against the Jade Dragons. Let's see if he can live up to that hype and expectation, though, inbound.
I mean, love to hear that, the confidence. I mean, you finished 3-0ing the Ravens in a pretty dominant fashion. You got to be confident going into your final match of the playoffs. And this is, I mean, difference between 3rd and 4th seed isn't like night and day, but I mean, you at least get to choose between those final 2 teams of who you'd want to play against. Maybe it's someone you match up better against, or maybe a sneaky strong team makes it from those bottom 4. So stuff like that, it'll end up mattering maybe a little bit, but at the end of the day, momentum is a big thing, and you want to win as many games as you can heading into the actual Worlds tournament. So, I mean, big things to look forward to. Excited to see them play tomorrow. Excited to also see the 1st and 2nd seed tomorrow to see who is actually going to be our 1st seed going into Worlds.
Yeah, I think also just that combination of not only picking who your opponent is going to be when you get to that bottom 2 of the ones that are left over, but maybe even not just give yourself an easier opponent, but could give yourself the Jade Dragons or whoever may be in that case, whoever that 4 seed is, give them the hardest opponent that gets end up left over, really make that a tough battle on that side of the bracket. Could keep things interesting. So it's always fun when we start getting to those kind of draft phase, picking your opponents earlier in the draft. The higher up you are in there is usually the bigger statements being made. If you're that 1st seed and you pick your opponent, you want to make sure that you could beat that opponent, because if you pick somebody and then they end up beating you, it's almost like you shoot yourself in the foot a little bit.
Yeah, I actually didn't even think about it like that. If you pick your own opponent and they end up beating you, that's like a double loss, because you lost just outright, and then you lost the team that you picked to beat. So, interesting way to think about it. I mean, it's going to be even worse if that does happen, but hopefully, at least for the top 4 teams, it does not happen, and they can actually take those wins. But again, that's in the future for a long ways. We got tomorrow's. We have the SOC tournament in early January, which is going to be the big focus for those teams, like the Ravens and like the Kings.
And with it, we have only 2 more sets to go for the rest of our weekend. Tomorrow's matchups, we'll start up with our 3rd and 4th place seed, the Jade Dragons and Oni Warriors battling out, see who gets 3rd, who gets 4th. And then to round out the weekend, Styx Ferryman and Atlantis Leviathans for your 1st and 2nd seed match. A little bit of prize money online, but also that coveted 1st seed, because then you get to have the pick of the litter against what of the 4 teams that qualify right before Worlds in January that you want to have as your opponent. So big matchups for all of these teams tomorrow, in particular that 1st, 2nd seed, to see who's going to have a lot of the weight and a lot of the power going into the SWC. It should be exciting matches for the both of them. I mean, Pegon's already called a 3-0 for his matchup tomorrow against the Jade Dragons. We'll have to see if they're able to hold up to that. We'll have to see how the Leviathans can fare up against the Styx Ferryman. This should be a very fun weekend for this one. Again, best of 5s to round out the remainder of our weekend.
Yeah, and it's going to be exciting games, to say the least, because I think it is going to be interesting to see who comes out as that #1 team, because it is a little bit of momentum-based going into Worlds. Ferryman and Levi's both have looked great, and now we finally get to see them play against each other again. And then 3rd and 4th match, like we said, you get to choose between the final 2 teams, so a lot of interesting things to end the year. I mean, we still got a little bit of time until then. Really excited for tomorrow's games.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun tomorrow in our seeding matches, so make sure that you don't miss out. But that's all that we have for you guys today, so thank you so much for watching. On behalf of myself, Inbound, all the other casters and production behind the scenes, thank you for watching, and we'll see you for the seeding matchups tomorrow at 11.